Chapter 979. Dongfang Weiming still wanted to say something, but Qin Feng's figure flashed and directly appeared in front of Bai Yenner. Yenner! Qin Feng's eyes were smiling. Seeing Qin Feng appear, Bai Yenner's frowning brows suddenly turned into a cold snort. Yenner is not a name that anyone can call. My name is Bai Yenner, you two have to respect yourselves. Qin Feng could hear that there was still resentment in Bai Yenner's words. Qin Feng touched his nose. At that time in the cave, what he did was indeed not right. He took advantage of Bai Yenner's precarious situation to take advantage of her body. But at that time, he had no choice but to meet a strong pure Yin woman. If he did not take her, he would be a waste for the rest of his life. Who are you? Seeing Qin Feng appear to disturb the situation, Dongfang Weiming was already cold. Seeing that there seemed to be a story between the two, Dongfang Weiming's face was suddenly filled with killing intent. His eyes were fixed on Qin Feng, like an ancient fierce beast staring at its prey. Who I am has nothing to do with you. Qin Feng turned around, a cold smile on his face. Although he did not know what this Greater One sect disciple was planning, but Bai Yenner was his woman, Qin Feng could not tolerate him interfering. Dongfang Weiming's eyes changed, becoming as sharp as a knife. How dare you? You are the first person who dares to speak like that in front of me, Dongfang Weiming. So what? Qin Feng did not care about falling out with his natural rival in love. Qin Feng's eyes fell on Bai Yenner. I said, I will marry you, even if you run to the ends of the earth. Who wants you to marry me? You think too highly of yourself. Bai Yenner glared at Qin Feng coldly and turned to leave. When he saw that Qin Feng had completely ignored him, Dongfang Weiming immediately flew into a rage. A copious amount of blazing aura erupted from his body like a monstrous volcano. His background was extraordinary, and he was also a successor disciple of the Greater One sect. He was high and mighty, so when had he ever been humiliated by an aboriginal from a remote sect? He had made up his mind. Even if he couldn't kill Qin Feng on the spot, he would make him lose face and trample on him. A blazing power surged forth, as if it could incinerate mountains and boil seas. Many of the surrounding geniuses' expressions changed as they retreated rapidly, distancing themselves from the two of them. The faces of the Bai clan's patriarch and his group turned ugly. They were furious. This Dongfang Weiming dared to make a move in the Bai clan's territory. The tremendous power of flames, which seemed to be able to incinerate the heavens and tens of thousands of worlds, swept over. The Bai clan's group suddenly found it somewhat unbearable. The two supremes of the Bai clan slightly rolled their sleeves, and silently, a pale golden light shield enveloped the Bai clan's people to prevent them from making a fool of themselves. Oppressive aura, do you think I'm afraid of you? Qin Feng sneered and released his water supremacy's aura. The enormous aura was like a tsunami that could swallow the heavens, sweeping over. It fiercely bombarded Dongfang Weiming's aura. Bang! Dongfang Weiming's expression changed. The enormous aura was like a substance that bombarded his aura. He couldn't stop retreating, and only stopped after more than 10 steps. At this time, there were several footprints of several inches under his feet. Dongfang Weiming actually suffered a loss in front of the Xingqian school's King Yuanshi? In the distance, the other successor disciple of the Greater One sect, Yin Ming, had a strange look on his face. How is this possible? Dongfang Weiming is one of the top successor disciples of the Greater One sect. He's a level 9 son of heaven. Could it be that King Yuanshi is stronger than Dongfang Weiming? Behind him, the red-robed perfected Lord Fire Refiner's eyes were filled with disbelief. Dongfang Weiming was recognized as one of the strongest among the younger generation of the 72 mysterious sect. He was less than 50 years old and had already surpassed the level of Grand Elders. He was one of the few peerless geniuses who could be compared to the old antiques in the depths of some first-rate sects. He can actually suppress Dongfang Weiming in a head-on confrontation? On the other side, Tang Ying and the yellow-faced youth revealed a strange look in their eyes. Dongfang Weiming was the benchmark of strength in the Linghai continent. At this level, he could no longer be described as young or talented. He was a true expert of the highest level. Even the sex couldn't easily restrain such an existence. There were many geniuses present, and even perfected Lord Fire Refiner had only touched the threshold. Only people like Dongfang Weiming, Yin Ming, Lin Ling, and Tang Ying had touched the threshold and collapsed. Now, King Yuanshi, Qin Feng, had to be added. Dongfang Weiming's godlike handsome face flashed with a hint of red. Just as he was about to explode, the Bai family's supreme being flashed and appeared in the middle of the two auras in the next moment. Boom! The two auras were blocked by the supreme being and disappeared without a trace like a chaotic void. Bai Wuli's face was cold. All right, both of you are here to participate in the Bai family's groom search and are guests. How can you fight here? My Bai family is not having a groom search competition. If the both of you want to compete, why don't you focus on the matchmaking event? Qin Feng felt the two auras being devoured and dissolved into nothingness. Hearing that, he immediately retracted his aura. This was indeed not a place for a fight. Although both of them were supreme beings, they had techniques and supernatural powers that were beyond the supreme being level. Once a fight broke out, only a few people present would be able to escape with their lives. Fine, Qin Feng, for the sake of Supreme Being Wuli, I will let you go. However, I will definitely win this matchmaking event. Just wait and see how I bring home the beauty. On the other side, Dongfang Weiming's eyes were red like flames. He stared coldly at Qin Feng and retracted his aura. Thinking about the gift he had prepared, he was very confident. No matter what relationship Qin Feng had with Bai Yen, as long as Bai Yen was in his hands, he could torture her however he wanted. A hint of malevolence flashed across his eyes. Dongfang Weiming, you are celebrating too early. Qin Feng's eyes were cold. Murderous intent was in his eyes. Seeing that, Bai Wuli heaved a sigh of relief. He laughed bitterly in his heart. Although he was a second step supreme, but facing these two people, it was still a bit difficult. No matter if it was Dongfang Weiming or that primordial true king, the pressure that came from them made his soul tense at all times. Once a fight broke out, he might not be able to suppress either of them. Qin Feng, 3 treasures. A warm smile appeared on his face. Everyone, today is the first day of the matchmaking event. Thanks to all the supreme beings, you have come to the Bai family to be the judges of the matchmaking event. Here, the Bai family would like to thank all of you for your support. Supreme Being Wuli, you are too kind. Hearing that, many sect leaders and even the supreme being from the Lin family nodded. After the opening speech, the supreme being changed the topic and smiled. I know that everyone is probably a little impatient now. Next, we will go straight to the main topic. Let's begin the first segment. Supreme Beings, all the candidates, follow me into the main hall. Guests from other places, if you are willing, you can enter the side hall to watch the ceremony. In the central hall of the Bai family. This hall seemed to have been built not long ago. It was magnificent and spacious, with 8 golden pillars supporting it, just like the main hall of a palace. The group of supreme beings took their seat. Qin Feng and the other 10 candidates also entered the main hall. The Bai family's patriarch, Bai Zhan, sat on the throne in the middle. Beside him were 2 elders. Qin Feng's eyes moved slightly. One of them was Supreme Being Bai Wuli. On the left and right were the 7 experts who were the judges of the matchmaking event. There was also a special guest, the Supreme Being from the Lin family of the Water God Divine Continent. Qin Feng found a seat below the main hall and sat down. It happened to be beside Taishu Sek's Tang Ying. As everyone took their seats, Bai Zhan looked around and said slowly, I believe everyone is clear about the rules of this test. The 3 gifts represent sincerity towards Yen, sincerity, and one's status and strength. The rules are as follows. The 3 treasures will be divided into 3 points. If you win any one of the 3 treasures, you will be awarded 1 point. If you win all 3 treasures, you will be awarded 3 points. The one with the highest score will be Yen-er's husband. Now, candidates, please present your first gift that represents sincerity. Let's start from the first person on the left. From left to right. Everyone looked down and saw that the first person on the left was a handsome young man in red who looked like a woman. There are more later. Chapter 980. This red-clothed youth, who was as beautiful as a woman, was not weak. Previously, Qin Feng had heard of this person. This person was also born in the northern spiritual region and was one of the 3 great families in the northern spiritual region. The 3 big families were Tianshui cities by family, Withered Pine City's Wu family, and Nether City's Yen family. He was from Withered Pine City. He was a famous talent in the Wu family. It was Wu Chu. He stood up and walked to the central hall. After bowing to the 8 honorables and Bai Zhan, he spoke. Uncle Bai, my first treasure is the Wu family's specialty, the lightning pattern bead. After he spoke, he took out a treasure box from his sleeve. When he opened the box, a light blue bead the size of a goose egg appeared. 1. A bolt of lightning shot through the air, and the pure lightning energy was shocking. Lightning pattern bead? On his seat, Qin Feng's expression changed slightly. The lightning pattern bead was a type of spiritual bead, and it was a rare lightning spiritual bead. I heard that the Wu family's prosperous land in Withered Pine City has a special lightning pattern spiritual bamboo. It grows by an inch every 100 years and a segment every 1,000 years. It is born from lightning, and the segment is the best spiritual material for refining weapons. Any weapon that is mixed with the powder of the lightning pattern spiritual bamboo will have a trace of lightning damage. The lightning pattern spiritual bead can only be produced by lightning pattern bamboo kings that are more than 10,000 years old. Everyone in the hall looked at the person who spoke. Universe Sex Sect Master Xian Zhiyang. Universe Sex Sect Master Xian Zhiyang looked at the bead and said, Ordinary lightning pattern spiritual beads are the size of a grain of rice, and they are monochromatic. This lightning pattern bead is as big as a goose egg, and its color is pure. It has a faint 5-colored glow. I'm afraid only the top lightning pattern spiritual bamboo, that is more than 100,000 years old, can produce it. Wu Chu smiled. Universe Sect Master is right. That's right. This lightning pattern spiritual bead is produced by the lightning pattern spiritual bamboo that is more than 100,000 years old. This isn't an ordinary spiritual bead, but a 5-colored lightning pattern spiritual bead. Any lightning pattern spiritual cultivator that is below the 7th rank would be able to raise their cultivation level by 1 rank. Bai Zhan smiled from the main seat. The 5-colored lightning pattern spiritual bead was comparable to an Archean 3rd-tier treasure. This treasure wasn't bad. Many experts nodded their heads. For lightning-type cultivators, the value of this treasure would probably increase even more. Qin Feng's expression did not change. With his current wealth, 3rd-rate primordial supreme treasures were nothing to him. At this moment, a voice sounded in the hall. What a bunch of useless trash! You think you can become the son-in-law of the Bai clan with your trash? You overestimate yourselves. Wu Chu's expression darkened. His gaze landed on Dongfang Weiming, who was seated among the crowd. Dongfang Weiming stood up and swept his gaze across the crowd. His gaze paused on Qin Feng for a moment, and a cold smile flashed across his face. After a moment, he stood up and walked to the center of the hall, bowing to the supreme beings in the seats of honor. Honorable Supremes, in order to make some useless fellows give up completely and not waste your time, I'm willing to show you my gift first. What an arrogant fellow! How dare you look down on us? Many of the selected powerhouses had ugly expressions on their faces. Dongfang Weiming was too arrogant, especially Wu Chu. His beautiful phoenix eyes were filled with rage. Looks like Dongfang Weiming is extremely confident. I wonder what treasure he has that makes him so confident. Qin Feng's heart sank slightly. Although he had a few treasure vaults in his hands, Qin Feng also felt a sense of pressure. Since Dongfang Weiming was so confident, he would definitely not speak without thinking. On the throne, Baijian exchanged glances with the supreme beings. After a while, Baijian nodded his head. All right, since young Master Dongfang is so confident, let's invite young Master Dongfang to show his gift first. After saying that, Baijian smiled and looked around at the crowd in the hall. Of course, if you are confident, after young Master Dongfang shows his first gift, you can also come up to the stage and compete. Young Master Dongfang, please show your gift. Baijian's gaze landed on Dongfang Weiming. Suddenly, everyone looked at Dongfang Weiming. Dongfang Weiming nodded his head and looked around at the crowd. A cold smile flashed across his face. Unhurriedly, he pinched his fingers together and a pink, jade-like brilliance appeared on his palm. A unique aura emanated from his palm. A unique fragrance was faintly emitted from the center of the hall. When inhaled, many of the powerhouses felt as though their souls were completely purified and emitted a pure, flawless spiritual light. Countless flower petals bloomed in the void. These petals were transformed from pure vitality. Some of the powerhouses inhaled some of the petals into their bodies and faintly felt that the true power in their bodies seemed to have been purified. What is this? Many of the powerhouses' expressions changed and their eyes blazed with passion. Just by relying on its amplification and purification effect, this treasure was already extraordinary. It seems to be a jade scepter. Some of the more observant powerhouses saw the object in the pink spiritual light. That's right, this is a jade scepter. When Dongfang Weiming saw the crowd's expressions, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of pride between his brows. However, its original form is not an ordinary jade. This seems to be a piece of connate spiritual jade. At that moment, a crisp and pleasant voice was heard. Dongfang Weiming looked in the direction of the voice and his gaze landed on the holy maiden of Guanghan, who was standing behind Supreme Being Xueyu. After taking a look, Dongfang Weiming was slightly surprised and then smiled proudly. Holy maiden, you have good eyesight. The original form of this jade scepter is a piece of connate spiritual jade. What, connate spiritual jade? Hearing this, even the supreme beings couldn't help but be moved, and their eyes revealed a trace of shock. Connate spiritual jade, this was a connate item. Any treasure that only had the word connate in it was worth more than one could imagine. Even a wisp of connate spiritual essence was enough for some supremes to attack. Needless to say, the origin of this connate spiritual jade was comparable to some of the connate spiritual treasures that were nurtured by nature. Connate spiritual jade would only appear when some of the connate spiritual essence sank into the ground and intertwined with the connate spiritual qi and was nurtured in the center of the spiritual veins. Any piece of this connate spiritual jade would be enough for supremes to attack. Regardless of whether it was forging weapons, refining elixirs, or refining it into one's body, it would have incredible effects. According to the legends, there was a piece of connate spiritual jade in the primordial age. Later on, it fell into the hands of the immemorial Sui sovereign and was refined into a top-notch primordial spiritual treasure. Over there was the Sui sovereign imperial jade seal. This item had suppressed an era and gathered countless fortunes. It was the origin of the light elemental spiritual treasure. Qin Feng's gaze landed on the connate spiritual jade scepter. Although this piece of connate spiritual jade was not refined into a primordial spiritual treasure, and its value was slightly lower, it was still comparable to some of the second-rate primordial spiritual treasures. Furthermore, this was not only. Qin Feng looked at the pink body of the jade scepter, and his brows twitched slightly. This treasure falling into the hands of someone like Dongfang Weiming is simply a waste of God's gift. Dongfang Weiming said proudly. That's not all. After I obtained this connate spiritual jade, I purposely searched for thousands of spiritual flowers to refine the essence of the jade, including 3 types of connate spiritual flowers. It contains the 3 talents of heaven, earth, and man. It has an effect that all women dream of. I haven't been able to release it in the background. I'm so anxious. There's another chapter later. Chapter 981. 3 Types of Innate Spiritual Flowers? Many experts were dumbfounded. Innate spiritual flowers. Usually, only spiritual flowers born from divine-grade spiritual roots could be called innate spiritual flowers. Divine-grade spiritual roots. Among the people present, even the various sects might not have a single innate divine-grade spiritual root to suppress their sects. Dongfang Weiming offered 3 innate spiritual roots right off the bat. It was hard not to suspect that he was secretly displaying his sect's power. The faces of the supreme martial artists of the various sects changed. Which sect would not bear to use such a precious treasure? It was definitely a treasure of the sect. Who would take it out as a gift? The 10,000 types of spiritual flowers and the 3 types of innate spiritual flowers were not mixed into the jade rui for no reason. They were precisely combined according to the ratio of medicinal properties. Therefore, this jade rui has a magical effect. Holding this treasure can not only expel the external model, but also increase the chances of enlightenment by more than 30%. Holding this treasure while cultivating can almost enter the state of enlightenment at any time. What? There's such an effect? It was as if a heavy bomb had landed in the crowd. Many experts were already staring at the jade scepter with widened eyes. What was the most important thing for a cultivator? It wasn't a multitude of divine abilities, nor was it a multitude of treasures. It was one's own cultivation. Epiphany. This was the fastest way to improve one's cultivation. However, even for someone like Qin Feng who possessed great fortune, it was not as easy as saying that he could comprehend it. Enlightenment was something that could be encountered but not sought. A moment of enlightenment, even if it was only for a few seconds, was enough to raise a cultivator's understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth by a whole realm. This innate jade rui could actually increase a cultivator's chances of enlightenment by more than 30%. How amazing was that? If not for the fact that there were so many supreme martial artists present, and that this was the Bai family's territory, many experts would have snatched it immediately. This treasure was too precious. Even the supreme martial artists could not help but feel envious. In addition, this jade rui is also embedded with a primordial spiritual pearl. This is a gold spiritual pearl, an ultimate treasure of a gold elemental real spirit after nirvana. It can automatically gather the gold elemental power of heaven and earth, and even summon the gold elemental laws of heaven and earth. With this item, it will naturally be twice the result with half the effort for experts who cultivate the gold elemental laws of heaven and earth. Dongfang Weiming landed on Baijan, who was sitting on the throne. At this moment, on the throne, Baijan tried his best to make his expression appear normal. Young Master Dongfang, are you going to offer this innate jade scepter to my Bai clan as the first gift? Not bad. Dongfang Weiming smiled. Whoosh. The moment these words were spoken, the entire group of elders behind Baijan became agitated. The innate jade scepter was an innate jade scepter with auxiliary characteristics. It was a second-rate immemorial era treasure, and an extremely precious one that could assist in cultivation. Yet, it was going to fall into the hands of the Bai family. Not all of the first-rate sects in the Spirit Sea continent had an Archean second-rate ultimate treasure. There were 72 mysterious sects in the entire Spirit Sea continent. For a new first-rate sect like the Bailing sect, their most valuable treasure was only a slightly better third-rate immemorial treasure. Only the first-rate sects that were ranked at the top might be richer and have better second-rate immemorial era treasures. Although the Bai clan was known to be on par with some of the first-rate sects, the best treasure they had was only the third-rate immemorial era treasure, the Bai Emperor's sword. One could imagine how attractive a second-rate immemorial era treasure was to the various factions on the continent. Especially an auxiliary second-rate immemorial era treasure like this one. It was much more valuable than other second-rate immemorial era treasures of the same level. Above him, Supreme Shui stared at the innate jade scepter and suddenly said, "Young Master Dongfang, is it worth it for you to give away a second-rate immemorial era treasure for Bai Yin?" "What do you mean?" Dongfang Weiming looked at Supreme Shui in surprise. "Dongfang Weiming, this is only the first round. Whether or not we can get to Bai Yin in the end is still unknown. Why do you have to give away such a precious treasure?" He then looked at his female disciple behind him and laughed. "If you just want a marriage alliance, my female disciple is not bad. Not only is she talented, but her looks are also rare even among the black sect of Shuiyu." "Supreme Shuiyu, what do you mean by this? My Bai clan is looking for a bride, not your black sect." Bai Zhan's face was filled with anger. The two supremes of the Bai clan snorted coldly. "What do you mean? A second-rate immemorial era treasure is precious. Everyone here knows how precious it is. Young Master Dongfang Weiming, you should not be so careless." Supreme Shuiyu smiled faintly. "Damn it, that old bastard Shuiyu is getting more and more shameless. However, this innate jade scepter is indeed precious. With this treasure, the Bai clan's strength will increase by a few levels within 100 years. I might even be able to use it to reach a higher level." Bai Zhan's eyes flashed with anger and anxiety. Although he was the patriarch of the Bai clan, he knew that his talent and luck were limited. He had almost reached his limit by being able to cultivate to the 4th stage. If he had this treasure, he would not have a problem becoming a 6th stage Great Saint, let alone a 7th stage Earth Saint. A 6th stage Great Saint might not have the opportunity to break through to the Divine Throne, but his lifespan would be extended by at least 1,000 years. "Thank you for your kindness, Supreme Shuiyu. However, I want to marry Lady Yin, not because of her beauty, but because Dongfang Weiming loves Lady Yin, from the bottom of his heart. In this life, I only want to marry Lady Yin. As for this second-rate immemorial era treasure, I am willing to part with it for Lady Yin." Dongfang Weiming's expression was solemn as his gaze fell on Bai Yin. His eyes were burning with passion, but his expression was calm. However, Bai Yin remained indifferent. She was unmoved. "Damn it, this bitch. If it wasn't for the words of the elders of the clan, it's extremely likely that the primeval White Emperor's treasure vault would fall into her hands. How could this young master possibly spend such a precious treasure for this bitch? Wait until I get my hands on you." Although he was furious, Dongfang Weiming was still gentle. His affectionate gaze, coupled with his handsome and cold appearance, seemed to be able to melt an iceberg. "Good, well said. Young Master Dongfang's sincerity can be seen by the sun and moon. If Lady Yin follows young Master Dongfang in the future, she will definitely enjoy it endlessly." Bai Zhan stood up. His face was full of vigor, and the anger from before was gone. Supreme Shuiyu looked at this scene coldly. Many Supremes did not move, but they sighed in their hearts. With this supreme treasure, the rise of the Bai family was inevitable. Within 100 years, their strength would probably change again. At that time, they might become an important existence. Supreme Bailing's eyes were twitching. As the saying goes, 2 tigers cannot live on one mountain. The Bailing sect was the most powerful sect in the northern spirit region. If another powerful sect rose, it would be hard to avoid conflict. Bai Zhan's gaze swept across all the participants in the hall, including Qin Feng. "Participants, you can present your gifts again. If no one thinks that their gift is better than young Master Dongfang's, Then I will announce the winner of this round. Chapter 982. The atmosphere in the main hall was heavy. Second-rate Archean treasures were extremely precious, even in the Golden Era, with spiritual energy everywhere and treasures gushing out like fountains. On the Spirit Sea continent, the grades of treasures were clear. After ordinary divine weapons, those with seals were spiritual weapons. Above spiritual weapons were acquired true weapons. Acquired true weapons had heavenly seals and were extraordinarily powerful. In ordinary eras, even acquired true weapons were extremely rare. Most of them were in the hands of powerful families or even disciples of sections. Above the acquired true weapons, an undying divine seal was a Middle Heaven true weapon. Middle Heaven true weapons were even rarer. Usually, only top families or second-rate sects possessed treasures of this grade. As for innate-rate treasures and even Archean-rate treasures, most of them would only appear in major forces like the 72 mysterious sects. Archean-rate treasures were divided from third-rate, second-rate, and first-rate. Archean-rate treasures were also called divine demon-rate treasures by some ancient martial art practitioners. Every one of them possessed enormous and unbelievable power. For existences like the 72 mysterious sects, treasures of this grade were also treasures that they would fight over. Every one of them had an unbelievable boost to a martial art practitioner. Third-rate Archean-rate treasures were nothing. Second-rate Archean-rate treasures were supreme treasures that could stabilize the sect's fate even in some first-rate sections. Furthermore, not every single one of the 72 mysterious sects had such a treasure to guard them. Usually, it was impossible to even take it out for a look, let alone give it to the Bai family as a gift. Lin Ling, Tang Ying, Yin Ming, the sallow-faced youth, Jin Yu, and many other candidates were all deep in thought. Some of the children of fate might have treasures of similar value. However, these treasures were important treasures for the rise of these children of fate. In many people's hearts, these treasures were far more important than a woman. Even if this woman was the most beautiful woman in the northern spirit region. Bai Zhanhuan was slightly disappointed when he saw that everyone was silent. However, he smiled as he looked at the jade scepter. To the Bai family, this jade scepter was already a great gain. Qin Feng sat on his seat, and when he felt the gaze of a young lady landing on him, he instantly smiled lightly. He glanced over and saw Bai Yenner glaring at him coldly. This jade scepter is an auxiliary second-rate Archean treasure, but in terms of effectiveness, its value is not inferior to an ordinary first-rate Archean treasure. Although I have many treasures in my body, whether it's the quasi-god grade spiritual roots or the few key treasures in the astral god's treasury, none of them are inferior to this treasure in terms of grade. However, those spiritual roots and treasures have now become one with the chaos world. If I take them out, I'm afraid it will damage the foundation of the chaos world, causing its evolution to stagnate or even slow down. Qin Feng pondered for a while. The primal chaos world was related to one's future path. It was the foundation, and could not be taken away. Qin Feng was in a bit of a dilemma. Ordinary treasures really couldn't compare to this immemorial jade scepter. Suddenly, Qin Feng raised his head and glanced at Dongfang Weiming, who was extremely proud of himself, with a smile on his face. Got it. Bai Zhan remained silent for a long time. He smiled and was about to announce the winner of the first round. At this moment, a figure stood up from the seat next to him. He came to the central hall. Primordial True King Qin Feng? The eyes of many supreme experts moved, and many of them looked at the Star Venerable in the center. The Star Venerable's expression was indifferent, without the change of expression that the other masters had imagined. Dongfang Weiming stared coldly at the black-robed man, with a trace of coldness flashing across his eyes. This guy finally made a move. On the other side, Bai Yenner secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Young Master Qin Feng, Do you want young Master Dongfang Weiming of the Greater One sect? Looking at Qin Feng, Bai Zhan's eyes moved slightly, and there was a trace of expectation in his eyes. As a level 8 formation king, it was not hard to imagine that Qin Feng must have had a great opportunity to obtain such a cultivation in a short few years. What gift do you have to offer? Everyone's eyes involuntarily fell on Qin Feng. Qin Feng smiled and glanced at everyone. His eyes paused for a few seconds on Bai Yen's slightly expectant eyes under the veil, and then he walked to the center of the hall. Patriarch Bai, Supreme Martial Artists, before we present the treasures, can I ask you a question? What do you want to ask? Bai Zhan looked at Qin Feng strangely. Not only Bai Zhan, but the other masters also had a strange look, and they did not understand what Qin Feng wanted to do. Whatever the question is, as long as it is related to the groom search, I can answer you. Well, I want to ask, does this jade rui belong to the Bai family or does it belong to young Master Dongfang? Qin Feng's eyes fell on the pink jade rui in front of the table. This. Bai Zhan's eyes moved slightly, obviously surprised by Qin Feng's question. More than that, he was disappointed. After passing the selection of the 9 halls, Qin Feng's performance fell into the eyes of the Bai family. Bai Zhan even thought more highly of him than before. He was a level 8 array king. However, asking such a question was a bit too stingy. On the side, the elders of the Bai family were also discussing and looking at Qin Feng with disappointment. Bai Zhan said lightly. Although this item belonged to young Master Dongfang previously, since it is offered as a gift, it naturally belongs to the Bai family now. I believe young Master Dongfang has no objection to this. Of course. Dongfang Weiming looked at Qin Feng with a sneer. Young Master Qin, are you worried about your family's treasure? Is that why you asked such a ridiculous and childish question? But if so, you don't have to participate in the groom's search. Why do you have to embarrass yourself here? As soon as he said that, in the hall, everyone's eyes fell on Qin Feng, and many people shook their heads. This Yuanshi real king of Xingqian school is a little petty. I think he is most likely from a small family. He is just a commoner. Even if he is in a high position, he can't change the aura of a commoner. In the hall, many people sneered secretly. Star Venerable, it seems like your disciple is quite humorous? On the judging panel, a mocking voice sounded. The Qiankuan sect leader, Xian Zhiyang, looked at the Star Venerable with a half-smile. The Star Venerable looked indifferent and glanced at Xian Zhiyang coldly. Many of the sect leaders laughed lightly. Bai Yan looked at Qin Feng without any change in her expression. Although she didn't know Qin Feng's character well, she knew that Qin Feng would not speak without thinking. Her pair of watery eyes sized up Qin Feng from head to toe. She really wanted to know what Qin Feng was trying to do. On the throne, Bai Zhan laughed. I wonder if young Master Qin is satisfied with this answer. There's more later. Chapter 983. Satisfied, very satisfied. Qin Feng smiled as if he did not see the mockery of the crowd. However, I would also like to broaden my horizons. I wonder if Patriarch Bai would be willing to show me the jade rui up close? Seeing Bai Zhan frowning and hesitating, Qin Feng's gaze flickered as he spoke. As the saying goes, only by comparison can one distinguish the superior from the inferior. In front of all the supreme martial artists, I think Patriarch Bai would not be afraid that I, Qin Feng, have any bad intentions. What is this Yuanshi true king planning? Bai Zhan could not figure out Qin Feng's thoughts. Qin Feng was the level 8 array king, and had the headmaster of Xingqian school and all the other headmasters present. Bai Zhan was not afraid of Qin Feng messing around. While Bai Zhan was still hesitating, Dongfang Weiming could not stand it anymore. Qin Feng, why are you dilly-dallying? Could it be that you are trying to take advantage of the situation because you can't take out any treasures? Qin Feng turned around and said calmly. Dongfang Weiming, why are you in such a hurry? I, Qin Feng, am the level 8 Array King and a true disciple of Xingqian school. How can I speak without thinking? As for offering treasures, you have to be prepared first. Since you jumped out in such a hurry, could it be that you are afraid that I will take out more treasures than you? You are jealous, so you jumped out to stop me. Qin Feng looked at the jade rui. If he wanted to give out this treasure, he had to get it. Do you think I am afraid of you? Dongfang Weiming was so angry that he laughed. As arrogant as he was, he simply pushed the matter aside. Qin Feng, go ahead and take a look. I don't believe that you can see a flower. Seeing this, Baijian on the throne finally nodded. Well, since young Master Dongfang doesn't mind, I will agree. Qin Feng nodded and bowed slightly to the supreme martial artist. Then, an elder in front of Baijian took down the jade rui. Qin Feng looked at the jade rui on the golden tray in front of him. He did not need to hold it in his hand. Just looking at it made him happy. It had a long handle and a hook head as flat as a shell leaf. It was smooth to the touch as if it was silk. It looked crystal clear. Pink spiritual light flowed with vibrant colors, exuding a sense of auspiciousness and auspiciousness. Taking a closer look, her entire body was pink, and there were faint dragon patterns carved on it. The jade scepter seemed to have countless petals drifting in the pink. This is indeed a good item. Fiddling with it in his hand, a strange look flashed across Qin Feng's eyes. In an angle that no one could see, a heart demon, under the urging of his mana, quickly transformed into a fake jade rui. Inner demons were the best at transformations. In addition, Qin Feng's true force was at the 6th stage of the extreme Dao realm. It possessed a mysterious power that surpassed the heavenly Dao. The jade rui appeared in the center of the chaotic world. Next, I have to change this jade rui. Qin Feng's eyes flashed. He put the jade rui back on the golden tray. At the same time, a wisp of the inner demon entered the body of the elder of the Bai family who was holding the tray. Attracted by the inner demon, the elder of the Bai family was confused and the tray was tilted. The jade rui suddenly fell. A smile flashed across Qin Feng's face. With a flash of his body, he picked up the fallen rui jade. Be careful. Qin Feng picked up the jade rui. Thank you, young Master Qin. The elder came to his senses and bowed hurriedly. He carried the tray back to Baijian. Baijian looked at the elder and took the jade rui from the tray. He rubbed the jade rui with one hand and nodded when he saw that there was nothing wrong with it. Baijian said lightly, Well, Qin Feng, you've seen it and compared it. You should take out your gift now, right? After being tormented by Qin Feng, if it were someone else, he would not be happy. Even so, his expression was already somewhat impatient. Of course. Qin Feng smiled and stretched out his hand. A ball of light gradually appeared in his hand. At this time, the chaotic world in his body was like a huge furnace. In the middle of the furnace, the jade rui was being tempered by the chaotic world's divine fire. In Qin Feng's opinion, the jade rui was being tempered with the essence of 10,000 flowers. The innate jade was polluted by the spiritual flowers and its meridians were turbid. The power of the innate jade was completely suppressed. There was also the golden spirit pearl that was embedded in it. It was completely destroying this fine innate jade. Gold was ominous. Jade was formed by auspicious aura. Even if it was to be inlaid, it should not be inlaid on the jade rui so carelessly. Not only did it destroy the pure aura of the jade rui, but it also wasted the potential of the treasure. It was a waste for the jade to fall into the hands of Dongfang Weiming. In Qin Feng's opinion, although a treasure refined from this innate jade couldn't be said to be a top-grade primordial first-rate supreme treasure, it wouldn't be a problem for it to be an ordinary first-rate supreme treasure. At this time, in the chaotic world's heaven and earth furnace, The jade essence of the innate jade rui was being tempered inch by the divine fire. The essence of 10,000 flowers was completely refined and turned into countless spiritual seals that merged into the jade body. The gold spiritual pearl was completely melted and turned into a layer of pale golden dragon patterns that were engraved on the jade rui. It added a hint of golden majesty to the jade rui. In the depths of the jade rui, the countless meridians became more perfect. The essence of 10,000 flowers that blocked the meridians were all expelled and turned into a spiritual light that merged with the jade body. Visible to the naked eye, the entire jade rui was like a stream of spiritual light that shone like water. It was tender and beautiful and emitted a perfect innate aura. It seemed to have reached the pinnacle of primordial second-rate treasures. The spiritual light was about to completely take shape. Quick, I need to be quick. Qin Feng's expression changed. In the chaotic world, a treasure he obtained from the star god's secret chamber appeared. It was a lotus lamp, and the strange thing was that it had 3 flower discs. A trace of pain flashed through his heart. In the next moment, the 3 flower discs of the lotus lamp shattered and 3 pure innate vital energies appeared. These were 3 extremely precious innate vital energies. Innate chi of fortune, innate chi of fortune, innate chi of longevity. These were the 3 types of innate vital energies. When they appeared, they were like 3 divine dragons that fell into the spiritual light of the jade rui that was about to take shape. Visible to the naked eye, there seemed to be countless innate spirit mushrooms growing in the spiritual light. A sweet fragrance suddenly spread throughout the entire chaotic world. Multicolored light soared into the sky and thousands of auspicious chi streams. Under this spiritual light, the entire chaotic world seemed to be purified. Flowers fell from the sky and golden lotuses bloomed from the ground. A primordial first-rate treasure. Qin Feng felt the joy of the origin in the core of the chaotic world, as if it was celebrating the birth of a primordial first-rate treasure. At the same time, a jade rui that emitted golden light appeared in Qin Feng's hand. There's more. Chapter 984. What's that? In the Great Hall, everyone's gazes landed on Qin Feng. They were prepared to look at the ball of dense spiritual light in his hand. Another jade scepter? The group of people looked at the pink jade scepter on the tray in front of Baijian with strange expressions. However, when they took a closer look, the faces of the sect masters changed again. The jade scepter emitted a ray of spiritual light, illuminating the hall like clear water. Everyone in the hall felt refreshed, as if they had been reborn. Even a few Supremes felt that their Supremes' divine bodies had benefited greatly from this ray of light, and their souls were relaxed. This is? The Supremes of Snow Region and Taishu Supremes couldn't help but stand up. This is an immemorial primordial ultimate treasure. Qin Feng activated the jade scepter, and a clear stream of innate fortune chi swept across the hall, turning into fortune green lotuses that fell into the bodies of some experts. The experts' faces changed, and they felt as if the green lotuses had cleansed their bodies and even their saints' souls. Even the quality of the true force in their bodies had been raised by a notch. Immemorial primordial ultimate treasure? The entire hall was dead silent. Only the green lotuses transformed from the innate fortune chi were floating in the air. The hall was completely shrouded in a deathly silence, and everyone felt their mouths go dry. They turned their necks and looked at the jade scepter in the black-robed young man's hand with great difficulty. At the same time, they were shocked like never before. Baijian swallowed his saliva and looked at Qin Feng, as if he was sleepwalking. Qin Feng, did you just say that this is an immemorial primordial ultimate treasure? That's right, Qin Feng said with a smile. All immemorial primordial ultimate treasures have the immemorial light. The immemorial light of third-rate ultimate treasures is white, the immemorial light of second-rate ultimate treasures is green, and only the immemorial light of first-rate ultimate treasures is purple. Everyone knows this. Qin Feng activated the golden jade scepter in his hand, and a purple cloud appeared in the core of the jade scepter. In an instant, purple clouds filled the sky. Visible to the naked eye, purple clouds appeared within 10,000 miles of Tianshui City. It's really an immemorial primordial ultimate treasure, and it also looks like an auxiliary immemorial primordial ultimate treasure. Whoosh! The entire group of elders of the Bai family burst into an uproar. Each and every one of them stared at Qin Feng with a fervent look on their faces. A first-rate primordial treasure. There were countless first-rate sects in the Spirit Sea continent. Even Xingqian School, which was ranked in the top 20, might not have a primordial ultimate treasure. Such a treasure was only second to the ancient origin treasures like the Desolate Dragon Gate and Sui Sovereign Steel. This is the innate pure fortune jade rui I secretly crafted. Its true form is also an innate jade, and I've infused it with the essences of thousands of herbs and the innate fortune qi. This treasure can be said to be an innate saint weapon that can aid in cultivation. Qin Feng cast out the innate jade scepter, and with a slight flick, a pure divine ray appeared. Moreover, it is a supreme treasure that guards the holy soul. With it, even if the 5 decays of the celestial being and the 5 tribulations descend, it can be delayed for a long time. Many of you here are experts with extraordinary cultivation. You should understand the significance of this. Gulp. Many experts' eyes emitted a terrifying red light. Of course, he understood. To be able to aid in the tribulation, and to delay and reduce the number of tribulations, just this alone was already heaven-defying. It is indeed a primordial ultimate treasure. This primordial true monarch actually took out a treasure of this level. Bai Zhan couldn't help but walk down from his throne. Mr. Qin, are you really going to give this primordial ultimate treasure to Yen as a gift? Bai Zhan felt like he was dreaming. There was actually someone who was willing to take out a primordial ultimate treasure for a woman. Bai Yen Er's pair of eyes looked at Qin Feng, and there was a moment of daze. Primordial ultimate treasure. Even the Bailing sect didn't have a primordial ultimate treasure of this level. This was the foundation of a first-rate sect. Qin Feng was actually willing to take out a primordial ultimate treasure for her. Of course it's true. Qin Feng looked at Bai Yen. For Yener, what's a mere first-rate primordial treasure worth? A mere primordial ultimate treasure? Many sect masters were dazed when they heard this. A primordial ultimate treasure. There were probably less than 20 of them in the entire Spirit Sea continent. He actually gave away such a primordial ultimate treasure with just a few words. On the side, the Star Venerable had the urge to vomit blood. Xingqian School had been operating for hundreds of eras, but it was only worth this much. Bai Zhan laughed. Good, primordial true monarch is indeed very attentive to Yen. I believe Yen will also understand your sincerity. Bai Zhan looked around at all the Supremes present. Supremes, the gap between a primordial ultimate treasure and a primordial ultimate treasure is already very obvious. I believe all the Supremes present shouldn't have any other doubts. Of course, a primordial ultimate treasure is too far away from a primordial ultimate treasure. One of the Supremes slowly exhaled and looked at Qin Feng. His gaze was shaken. Everyone, is there anyone else who is willing to come forward and present their gift? If not, we will directly announce the results of the first round. Announce the results. Dongfang Weiming's face was very ugly, and he felt like his lungs were about to explode with anger. Ever since Qin Feng took out this innate fortune jade rui, he had a faint, strange feeling. The more he looked at it, the more familiar it was. Although this jade rui was covered with a layer of golden skin, he always had a feeling that it was his innate jade god rui. Seeing that Bai Zhan was about to announce the results, Dongfang Weiming couldn't help but question. Qin Feng, where did you get this jade rui? How can you have the same innate jade as me? Dongfang Weiming faintly questioned. As soon as he said this, Baijan, who was about to announce the results, changed his expression. The blazing atmosphere in the entire hall suddenly froze, and everyone looked at Qin Feng. Innate jade was not a cabbage. In the legends there was only one innate jade in the world, and that was the Sui sovereign seal. The one in Dongfang Weiming's hand was the second innate jade. What does it have to do with you where my jade came from? Qin Feng's expression was indifferent, but his heart was slightly moved. He knew that Dongfang Weiming was probably suspicious. This was normal. Innate jade was too rare. Furthermore, this jade rui had been in Dongfang Weiming's possession for so long, and was refined and used by him. Even if Qin Feng changed his appearance, it was impossible for him to cut off this sense of familiarity. What a pity, so what if you are suspicious? He sneered in his heart. Qin Feng, you bastard, this innate jade rui should be the innate jade deity that I had before. I see that you pretended to want to borrow the jade rui to look at it, but you obviously tampered with it and swapped it with mine. Dongfang Weiming roared. Using my innate jade god rui to participate in the groom selection, how dare you? Chapter 985. Qin Feng did not have any other interests in his life. His favorite thing was to do business without any cost. Dongfang Weiming questioned him loudly. Qin Feng chuckled. Young Master Dongfang, you are too thick-skinned. You said that the treasure you saw was yours. Previously, everyone saw that your primordial jade god rui was only a second-rate primordial treasure, while my innate fortune rui is a first-rate primordial treasure. How can your rui be compared to mine? Hearing this, most of the experts in the hall nodded secretly. Although there was only a difference of 1 grade between a second-rate primordial treasure and a first-rate primordial treasure, it was like a heavenly mirror. If Qin Feng had replaced the jade god rui and turned it into a first-rate primordial treasure, many of the sect masters would not believe it. Dongfang Weiming was speechless. This was also what he did not understand. However, the unbreakable intuition in the depths of his saint's soul told him that this was definitely his primordial jade god rui. Although I don't understand why, Uncle Bai, I implore you to check the primordial jade god rui again. As long as you check, you will know that only Qin Feng touched this jade god rui. Dongfang Weiming walked to the center of the hall and bowed to Baijan. Baijan hesitated. He looked at Qin Feng. At this moment, he had already treated Qin Feng as his son-in-law. Moreover, Baijan was very satisfied with Qin Feng's identity and status. Although Qin Feng was not a disciple of the 10 divine sects, the Xingqian school was not weak, especially since the Xingqian school was just beside the northern spirit region. Moreover, the most important thing was that Qin Feng was an 8th-level array king. Baijan was very satisfied with such a son-in-law. On the contrary, although Dongfang Weiming was a disciple of the Greater One sect, he was arrogant and looked down on everyone. Even Bai Yin was probably not a marriage alliance, but a subsidiary of the Bai family. Most importantly, the Bai family's foundation was in the northern spirit region, while the Greater One sect's foundation was in the central 9 divine lands. As the saying goes, distant water cannot quench a present thirst. On the contrary, Baijan did not wish for Bai Yin to marry into Greater One sect. Qin Feng didn't mind and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. Since young Master Dongfang wants to check, then let him check. As the saying goes, true gold fears no fire. However, I would like to request all the supreme martial artists here to be witnesses. Don't let the dark thoughts in someone's heart flare up and cause him to do anything irrational and despicable. This jade deity's scepter was refined from his supreme heart demon. Furthermore, it was reinforced with extreme grade true power. The extreme 6th layer was even more powerful than the ancient Son of Heaven's supreme power. It possessed the power of eternal change. Unless the supreme beings present here were stronger than Qin Feng's extreme 6th layer. Otherwise, only the descent of a fiend god would be able to see through it. Bai Zhan immediately nodded when he saw Qin Feng speak, and then he gestured with his gaze. An elder of the Bai clan by his side instantly carried a tray and placed the primeval jade scepter down for all the sect masters to see. Qianquan sect's Xianzhiyang was the first to pick up the jade scepter. If there was anyone present who wanted Qin Feng to be unlucky the most, it would be him. The Qianquan sect and Xingqian school were like fire and water. There doesn't seem to be any difference? Xianzhiyang played with the primeval jade scepter in his hand. Regardless of the quality or the primeval light in the core of the jade scepter, they all indicated the grade of this supreme treasure. After injecting a small amount of pure god power into the scepter, it instantly revealed a boundless magical power. Pink rays of light shone out and shook the primordial spirit slightly. It was as if the primordial spirit had received a huge boost and cleansed. Countless distracting thoughts and even thoughts of the heart demon seemed to have been cleansed. Qin Feng sneered in his heart. When Xianzhiyang activated the heart demon, he instantly activated the transformation of the heart demon and transferred a large amount of soul energy over to absorb the distracting thoughts in the depths of Xianzhiyang's primordial spirit. His attainments in the heart demon could be said to have improved greatly with the appearance of the demon lord's law. After passing the fourth heavenly tribulation, Qin Feng had already transformed into the supreme heart demon. Not only did he pick up the ultimate techniques of diabolism from his previous life, but he had also mastered some diabolism secret techniques through a comprehensive study. He had a hint of the aura of a supreme diabolism ancestor. There was no doubt about Xianzhiyang's ability. If he understood the transformation of diabolism well enough, he might be able to see through it. It was just that diabolism had just sprouted at the moment. The various branches of diabolism were still budding, so Xianzhiyang was fooled for a moment. Feeling the negative thoughts, impurities, and distracting thoughts in the depths of the primordial spirit were all lightly touched, and the pure spiritual wonder of the primordial spirit was exuding. Xianzhiyang loved it so much that he could not put it down. As a result, he absorbed some of the negative thoughts and impurities in the depths of Xianzhiyang's heart. The transformation of the heart demon increased accordingly, and he even vaguely stole many of Xianzhiyang's secrets. The power of the heart demon increased greatly. Qin Feng vaguely felt that as the power of the heart demon increased, he could feel the demon lord's law in his body gradually transforming into a god rule. It was easier for the demon lord's law to evolve into a god rule than the space rule or even the water rule. Qin Feng did not need to cultivate such a rule. He only needed to taint it more with diabolism. Luck, providence, and even the reciprocation of the rules could improve. What a good person! Qin Feng was so happy that he could only laugh. Xianzhiyang sighed and passed the jade rui in his hand to the next great void supremacy. A moment later, Qin Feng felt that the demon lord's law had already reached peak rank 9. Its power was already close to the limit. It was about to transform. When the great void supremacy passed the jade rui to crimson firmament supremacy, Qin Feng felt that the demon lord's law had completely transformed into a god rule. Moreover, it was rapidly surging toward the peak of the first step of the supremacy. After the breakthrough of the demon lord's law, Qin Feng suddenly felt his heart palpitate. This palpitating was very sudden, and even Qin Feng could not help but be stunned. Suddenly, Qin Feng had a realization. The Deva's decay is not far away. Qin Feng had such a sign once in his previous life. That was before the 5th Deva's decay. There was a hint of joy in his eyes. At this moment, the Jade Rui had already landed in the hands of the Star Venerable. The Star Venerable only took a glance at it and then passed it to the Snow Region Supremacy, who was looking at it eagerly. After being toyed with by the Snow Region Supremacy and absorbing most of the supremacy's negative spirit power, Qin Feng felt that the power of the Demon Lord's law had already reached the peak of the first step of the supremacy. It's all thanks to Dongfang Weiming. What a good person! Qin Feng vaguely felt a part of the true essence of the demonic weapon Dao. In the end, the Jade Rui fell into the hands of Dongfang Weiming himself. He rubbed the Jade Rui and used his divine telekinesis to sense the familiar feeling coming from it. This isn't right. My Jade Rui shouldn't feel like this? Dongfang Weiming's face was gloomy as he looked at Qin Feng coldly. This is a fake, enough to pass off as the real thing. But this young master can tell with a single glance that this is the real thing. Qin Feng, you won't be able to fool this young master. Although this Jade Rui looked like the real deal and even had the same power as the previous owner of the Jade Rui, Dongfang Weiming could tell at a glance that it was a fake. That piece of innate fortune Jade Rui was the real Jade Rui. Qin Feng turned around and glared at him. Young Master Dongfang, the supremacies have all seen it, and none of them have any objections. Do you think that they're all old and blind? I think you're just unhappy because my gift is better than yours. That's why you're trying to stir up trouble. Dongfang Weiming's face changed. He looked up and saw that the supremacies were all unhappy. Dongfang Weiming, we've all seen this Jade Rui. There's nothing fishy about it. That's right, it's the real deal. Dongfang Weiming, do you think that we're all biased towards Qin Feng? In the seats, the supremacies spoke one after another, their faces full of disdain. Dongfang Weiming's face flushed red. He looked at Qin Feng angrily. Qin Feng sneered, there was no fear in his eyes. His eyes told Dongfang Weiming that he had used his primordial Jade Rui. Dongfang Weiming's chest rose and fell rapidly. He looked at Qin Feng with a red face and felt like vomiting blood. This kind of grievance almost made him explode in anger. How dare you use my treasure to humiliate me? Primordial true King Qin Feng, I, Dongfang Weiming, will either you or me. Dongfang Weiming's heart was bleeding. He was so angry that he laughed. He laughed and rushed out of the hall. There's more later. Chapter 986. Seeing Dongfang Weiming walk out of the hall angrily, Baijian smiled faintly and looked around the hall. Since no one has any objections, I announce that the winner of this round is Qin Feng, the primordial true king. Congratulations to Qin Feng for obtaining the first point of the first round. However, there's no need to be discouraged. There are still 2 more rounds with 2 points. The second round will be held in 3 days. The core is sincerity, not the preciousness of the treasures. Since the Bai family is publicly looking for a groom, we naturally hope that Yen will be happy in the future and find a lover who is willing to accompany her and tolerate her for the rest of her life. When he walked out of the hall, Qin Feng could still feel the kind gaze of his future father-in-law. Giving away a primordial treasure was destined to become a legend in the mainland. The 5th blight of the divinity. Qin Feng was not worried about the second gift. Although the second gift was not about the preciousness of the treasure itself, Qin Feng was confident. Qin Feng's gaze was mainly on the changes in his body. As the Devil Master's law was upgraded to a God law, the last tribulation of the divinity's decay was finally triggered and could descend at any time. The 5th blight of the divinity. Once he passed it, he would be promoted to a holy son and complete the 9-grade tribulation. This was very significant. It meant that he could finally prepare to break through to the divine position. Even in the 3,000 states of the Spirit Sea continent, a rank 9 holy son was an absolute overlord of a sect. A holy son was more like an identity bestowed by heaven and earth, a position. It was heaven and earth's affirmation of a holy son. An existence of this level could even be called a holy son. Qin Feng was still quite confident about the 5th blight of the divinity's decay. This was the fifth tribulation of the divinity, and there were too many variables. Qin Feng. When Qin Feng walked out of the door, a voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feng raised his head and his gaze shifted. A white-haired young man was standing 100 steps away and was currently calmly looking at him. "It's you." Qin Feng's eyes were filled with astonishment as he sized up the other party's white hair, ancient eyes, and the faint aura of an expert emanating from him. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. Especially the aura on his body that was faintly resonating with the Devil Lord's law on his body, and mutually attracting each other. Tianshui City, above a restaurant in the east of the city. Qin Feng and the white-haired youth sat across from each other. After a while, he said slowly, "I didn't expect you to have changed so much since we parted a few years ago. I never imagined that the Qin Feng of that day would have such a great stroke of good fortune. In just several years, he had become an 8th-level world king and had even become an 8th-level array formation king whose name shook the 3,000 provinces. His snow-white hair cascaded down like a waterfall, and a sickle-like blood moon appeared between his eyebrows. His eyes were abnormally black, as if they could devour the world. When he raised his head, Qin Feng felt as if the entire world was trembling. Powerful. It was unimaginably powerful. I have no idea what sort of heaven-shaking lucky chance this Duan Xiaolu obtained. In just a few short years, his cultivation speed isn't any slower than mine. The image of that pitiful little beggar from Mountain River City appeared in front of Qin Feng's eyes. At this time, Duan Xiaolu's eyes were like blades, filled with a tyrannical overbearingness that wanted to plunder the world. It was unknown just how much suffering he had experienced in these past few days. Qin Feng could imagine that this person had experienced far too much. This person was none other than the true demon ancestor, Duan Xiaolu. At this time, although Duan Xiaolu was only a 7th-level Earth Saint, Qin Feng could feel that Duan Xiaolu was no weaker than him. "It's just a bit of luck." Qin Feng raised his cup, faintly smiling. "I wonder where little brother Duan has been all these years. When I returned to Mountain River City, I had them inquire about your whereabouts." Duan Xiaolu raised his cup, looking at Qin Feng. Towards Qin Feng, even if his blood had already turned cold, he still felt a special sense of gratitude. Back then, he was just an ordinary beggar in Mountain River City. Although his heart was devoted to martial arts, his determination was unwavering. However, no one thought that he would be able to make a name for himself one day, and all he received was sarcasm. Only this young man in front of him encouraged him. From that day onwards, Duan Xiaolu remembered Qin Feng. A trace of gentleness flashed across his cold, pitch-black eyes. He raised his cup, lightly clinked it, and drank it in one gulp. Duan Xiaolu's eyes were slightly blurred. "I left Mountain River City, left Yen Country, and went everywhere to find masters. I entered many sects, but I ran into walls, was suppressed, and faced countless life and death situations. The Linghai continent is bigger than I imagined. In my eyes, the Linghai continent was just a mountain river city, but when I went outside, I realized how small I was. The outside world is bigger and more exciting than I imagined. And more dangerous. The human heart is treacherous. Fortunately, I also encountered many fortuitous encounters and received help from many people. I even obtained part of the immemorial path of sacrifice, immemorial path of witchcraft, and immemorial path of Yao." Duan Xiaolu's words were light, but Qin Feng felt like he could see countless sabers and swords. Hearing him talk about the immemorial path of sacrifice, immemorial path of martial, and immemorial path of Yao, Qin Feng couldn't help but gasp. He couldn't help but feel astonished by Duan Xiaolu's fortuitous encounters. Whether it was the immemorial path of sacrifice, immemorial path of martial, or immemorial path of Yao, they were all formed rules, and could be said to be the foundation of an epic civilization. This wasn't something that could be explained by a part of a mythical level inheritance. If any of these inheritances were to spread, it would trigger endless wars in the world. It could even lead to the pursuit of first-rate sex, or even super-first-rate sex, as expected of a true son of Providence. Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a trace of jealousy in his heart. It was a pity that he had been busy for so long, and even had some foresight, but compared to a son of Providence like Duan Xiaolu, he couldn't be compared. Duan Xiaolu had been staring at Qin Feng. He knew that regardless of whether it was the immemorial Tao of sacrificial Tao, immemorial Tao of witchcraft, or immemorial Tao of demonic Tao, they were all things that could arouse endless greed in the eyes of martial Tao experts. If it were a normal martial artist, even a supreme, god or demon, they would be tempted. But from what he saw, although Qin Feng had a trace of envy, he wasn't tempted. This big brother Qin Feng is truly worthy of being friends with. Duan Xiaolu's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. In these years, he had been betrayed many times. Even the woman he loved had chosen to betray him after learning of his fortuitous encounter. It wasn't that Qin Feng wasn't greedy, but that he already had his own demonic path. Big brother Qin Feng, I came to see you this time because I want to ask for something from you. Duan Xiaolu looked at Qin Feng with clear eyes. Qin Feng had some guesses in his eyes as he smiled faintly. Brother Duan, what do you want to ask for? A trace of caution flashed in his eyes. Duan Xiaolu's hand moved, and a dot of black light suddenly appeared. The next moment, a sharp demonic qi that could split the sky flashed like lightning. However, a demonic qi that was as deep as the abyss of hell caught a glimpse of it and was deeply imprinted in Qin Feng's saint's soul. Firmament demonic qi. Great firmament supreme demonic scripture. Is he really the demonic ancestor destined by the heavens? Qin Feng was a little absent-minded at this moment. Even with his interference and the first to comprehend the demonic Lord Law, this young man had created the demonic Tao Law. At this moment, the demonic Lord Law in his body was even somewhat restless, almost bursting out of his body. There's more later. Chapter 987. Grand Firmament Supreme Demon Scripture. This was a mythical demon scripture that was born in the Golden Era. It systematically recorded the cultivation method of the demon path, from martial arts foundation establishment to supremacy, and even the demon god realm. This was also the first demon vein that was born in the Linghai continent. The end point of this demon vein included the primordial demon, the Taishang demon, the firmament demon lord, and so on. There were a total of 9 types. In other words, after Deshang cultivated this demon vein, he could cultivate 9 types of supreme demon bodies. This supreme demon scripture had been lost in the later generations. However, according to this supreme demon scripture, many demon veins had evolved, and many of them had left a terrible name in the history of the Linghai continent. As expected of the legendary demon ancestor, even though I established the demon path first, he could still go back to the original path. Qin Feng said. A very unfamiliar power. What is it called? Duan Xiaolu stared at Qin Feng. I call it demon qi. Demon? Qin Feng murmured. Qin Feng suppressed the demon lord's law that was boiling in his body. At the same time, many mysteries of the demon vein flickered in his body. Vaguely, they burst out from Qin Feng's body like a demon dragon that could devour heaven and earth. Duan Xiaolu's eyes lit up. It was as if he had seen the essence of the demon path of heaven and earth. His eyes flickered with the 9 stars, and his snow-white hair moved without wind. He was like a long river that reached out from the darkest hell to the mortal world to absorb souls. A strange power that made all living things tremble in fear burst out. He was like a black hole that could devour heaven and earth. Firmament undying demon body. Qin Feng's eyes lit up. He seemed to see the endless vitality in heaven and earth being devoured by this demon body. There was a faint power that was not inferior to the 8 desolation indestructible body. In fact, the firmament undying demon body was indeed not inferior to the 8 desolation indestructible body. The countless changes in demon chi had caused a law in his body to be affected by a special change. It has become the law of the demon path. I guess this is what you want, Qin Feng pondered. At this moment, Duan Xiaolu also raised his head and stared at him with his starry eyes. Qin Feng was very clear about Duan Xiaolu's thoughts and goals. It was the Devil Lord Law. Obtaining the Demon Lord's Law, Duan Xiaolu might be able to complete a crucial transformation. At that time, he would truly receive the title of Devil Master. Actually, in Qin Feng's view, this Devil Master Law was the proof of the Devil Master's venerable position. Only by possessing the Demon Lord Law and being recognized by the Demon Lord Law would one be a true Demon Lord. In all fairness, Qin Feng was not willing to share this Devil Lord Law with others. If the Demon Lord Laws were in his hands, then as the sole ruler of the demonic path, once the demonic path flourished in the future, he would obtain the greatest benefits. However, the Demon Master Law was extremely troublesome. Any primordial law was practically the proof leading to Chief God. Once exposed, knowing that Qin Feng grasped a complete Demon Master Law, there would definitely be unparalleled Supreme Tao powerhouses descending to fight for it. Moreover, the Demon Lord Laws were in his hands alone. Even if he was clever and had many tricks up his sleeve, if he wanted the demonic path to flourish, it would not be easy. In his previous life, Duan Xiaolu grasped the Demon Lord Laws by himself. However, even in the later stages of the Golden Era, when the demon ancestor was not weaker than some chief god powerhouses, he still died in battle. The Demon Lord Laws were forcefully torn apart and scattered everywhere. Although he boasted of his outstanding talent, Qin Feng was not sure if he could keep the Demon Lord Laws. Now that he had split the Demon Lord Laws and bestowed a portion to Duan Xiaolu, this would cause the Demon Lord Law's power to be scattered for a short period of time. However, in the long run, he would not lose out. The Demon Lord Laws being split apart, to those existences that far surpassed the demon god level, it would be less attractive and the pressure on him would lessen. Most importantly, Qin Feng was very clear that Duan Xiaolu was not an ordinary person. Rather than a split, it would be more accurate to say that there was an additional investor in the demonic path. With Duan Xiaolu's methods and the two of them working together, the demonic path's spread would be countless times faster. The demonic path's rise would be pushed forward countless times. In history, Qin Feng knew that the demonic path's rise was in the Silver Age after the Golden Era. This was like two people working together to control a caravan. Although one person held a lot of power, his strength was limited and the caravan could not develop. Thus, with the addition of Duan Xiaolu, this new force, it would be difficult for the caravan to develop. With the two of them working together, the caravan's strength would increase explosively. In the long run, it would definitely not lose out. After making up his mind, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. His entire soul turned into a demonic blade that could split heaven and earth and suddenly slashed at the Demon Lord Laws in his body. About 1/5 of the Demon Lord Laws were cut off. It flew out from Qin Feng and turned into a streak of black light. In the next moment, it suddenly fell into Duan Xiaolu's body not far away. Duan Xiaolu's expression changed. He originally wanted to stop it, but he felt the attraction of the power in the streak of black light towards him. He took the opportunity to swallow it, fusing it into the depths of his saint's soul. Duan Xiaolu's expression was shocked. Then, a wisp of black light appeared in the depths of his eyes. His saint's soul faintly felt countless luck from the unseen world coming from all directions and entering the depths of his soul. Thousand Demon Imperial Pilgrimage, Second Demon Lord. He was startled, and then a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. Qin Feng closed his eyes. At this moment, he felt that nearly 1/5 of the Demon Lord laws in his body had been torn off. 1/5 of the originally small amount of Demon Dao luck had been transferred elsewhere. However, there was also a new wave of Demon Dao luck pouring in. This new wave of Demon Dao luck was full of vitality and endless potential. He believed that it would not be long before a part of the lost luck could be made up for. The original Demon Lord laws had absorbed a part of the soul power of many Supremes, and were already close to the peak of the first step of the Supremes. With this, the Demon Dao law deteriorated and almost fell to the Supremes. Qin Feng glanced at Duan Xiaolu, and his expression changed slightly. Qin Feng casually took out some Demon Dao cultivation techniques of the later generations, and even the essence of the Demon Dao law, and turned them into a black light that entered Duan Xiaolu's body. Duan Xiaolu grabbed the black light and felt it, and his expression changed. There were many Demon Dao profundities, and many of them were not inferior to the firmament Demon Dao that he had created. I didn't expect Big Brother Qin Feng's attainments in Demon Dao to be so high. Moreover, he has these Demon Dao laws that can directly reach the Lord God realm. Once the Demon Dao Deshang reaches the Demon Dao, we Demon Lords will directly advance to the Demon Dao Lord realm. Fine, since Big Brother Qin Feng is so generous, I, Duan Xiaolu, can't be stingy. Duan Xiaolu's heart trembled. Then, his eyes moved slightly. He extended a hand, and a black light swept towards Qin Feng, instantly entering Qin Feng's body. Immemorial path of sacrifice, immemorial path of witchcraft, immemorial path of Demon Dao. Countless scriptures flashed past Qin Feng's eyes, and all kinds of secret techniques appeared in his mind. This was Duan Xiaolu returning the favor. After obtaining Qin Feng's Demon Lord Law and Demon Dao profundities, he copied all the cultivation techniques that he had obtained from various fortuitous encounters and gave them to Qin Feng. These cultivation techniques even included the evolution of the immemorial path of sacrifice, witchcraft, and Demon Dao. These were the ultimate profundities of a civilization's evolution. How vast was this? This was incredible! Qin Feng seemed to have eaten too much in one breath. A strong mystic light rushed out, as if it had turned into a beautiful flower of wisdom, evolving countless mysteries of the heavenly Tao. This mystic light was about to rush out of the restaurant, but in the next moment, Duan Xiaolu extended a hand and used a secret technique to block this mystic light, trapping it in a corner of the restaurant. This was the light of wisdom, or even the condensation of a civilization's light of wisdom. Anyone who saw it would benefit immeasurably, or even obtain countless benefits. Even cultivating a divine ability out of thin air was a matter of course. Countless scriptures, countless insights of the immemorial path of sacrifice, witchcraft, and Demon Dao powerhouses fell into the depths of his saint's soul. Countless mysterious transformations, as Qin Feng observed, comprehended, the changes were intense. One could imagine, once he finished comprehending, his strength would definitely soar beyond imagination. Chapter 988. This was the insights of the ancient sacrificial path, witchcraft, and demonic path masters. It contained the highest truths of the world. To someone like Qin Feng who had formed his own path, this could be called more important than any treasure. He seemed to personally experience the ancient sacrificial path, witchcraft, and demonic path. He saw countless cultivators of the sacrificial path, martial path, and demonic path fight, cultivate, and even perish. It was as if he had experienced all of this himself. The true strength within his body changed. He reached the 7th level of extreme Tao. As his true strength revolved, it seemed to evolve from an epic, possessing an incredible ability. It even far surpassed the limits of the heavenly Tao. The greatest change was in the chaos world within his body. After obtaining the evolution of this civilization, the entire chaos world was tempered. The will of the heavenly Tao revolved even more nimbly, bringing with it an aura of perfection. Using history as a mirror, one could know the rise and fall of the world. Using people as a mirror, one could understand gains and losses. The newly born chaos world had obtained a portion of the ancient sacrificial path, witchcraft, and demonic path epics mysteries. It was like obtaining unsurpassed information. As it absorbed and expanded, it even gave birth to something wondrous. This was the path of ascension of the world. Above a large nation, Qin Feng knew that there was a nation of God. As for what mysteries there were within a nation of God, Qin Feng wasn't too sure. But he could feel that this chaos world, that was no weaker than the background of some first-rate sects, had become even more nimble after absorbing the profound truths of these three epics. His strength didn't increase, but his potential seemed to be reborn. Qin Feng opened his eyes. At this time, he was still at the 8th level World King realm. But he could feel that he could easily face 3 of his previous selves. I fear those ancient sons of heaven. Even the ancient sons of heaven at the 8th level World King realm weren't as strong as they are now. Qin Feng praised in his heart. Then, with a thought, countless arcane skills swarmed out. They carried with them faint traces of starlight. Qin Feng could feel that the third boundary of a star fate master, the Star Lord realm, was already within reach. There was only a thin bottleneck left. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he could completely control the primeval Master Star and obtain the title of Primeval Star Lord. On the other side, Duan Xiaolu had also benefited greatly. His body was surrounded by the aura of a great tribulation. He was about to undergo a tribulation. From the Golden Age to the Age of Chaos, the demonic path civilization had evolved through several eras. This was in no way inferior to the ancient path of sacrifice, the ancient path of shamanism, and the ancient path of Fey. This was also one of the fundamental reasons why Qin Feng was able to rise to power. With the wisdom of countless sages and countless demonic secret techniques, even a pig would be able to quickly rise up and achieve great things after obtaining such an inheritance. In the eyes of many, Qin Feng's most valuable asset was the half of the space-time duality scripture. However, Qin Feng knew that what he valued the most was his foresight, as well as the essence of the vast martial arts civilization that had evolved through countless eras. The two of them exchanged a glance, and they could both see the aura of someone who was about to break through lingering around each other. Gradually, a battle intent rose in their eyes. In the next moment, both of their eyebrows twitched at the same time. They looked over and saw 2 huge waves of demonic qi in the distance. These 2 waves of demonic qi were almost undisguised. A moment ago, they were still hundreds of miles away, but a moment later, they were near Tianshui City. At this moment, all the powerhouses in Tianshui City felt something in their hearts. In the Bai family, many supreme beings looked out of Tianshui City. Dark clouds loomed over the city, threatening to destroy it. They seemed to be coming for me. Qin Feng felt that the 2 huge waves of demonic qi had locked onto him as soon as they appeared. Qin Feng, you didn't expect us to destroy Tianshui City. Come out and accept your death. A thunderous voice came from a mountain range outside the city. Qin Feng looked over and saw a demon venerable that looked like an iron tower on top of a mountain peak. A dense demonic qi spread in all directions and could be seen from thousands of miles away. There's a bull demon. Qin Feng held his forehead slightly. In addition to this demon clan supreme being, Qin Feng also felt another demonic qi that was well hidden. That demon venerable thought that he hid it well, but in Qin Feng's eyes there was nowhere to hide. In the Bai family, many powerhouses' expressions changed when they heard that they were here to cause trouble for Qin Feng. Among them, many geniuses like Dongfang Weiming sneered. They were gloating. How did Qin Feng provoke these demon clan supreme beings? In the Bai family's inner residence, many powerhouses, including Bai Zhan, showed a hint of worry. Qin Feng was silent for a moment. His figure flashed, and the next moment, he appeared outside Tianshui City. Suddenly, Qin Feng's eyebrows twitched. Duan Xiaolo's figure appeared not far away from him without a sound. Qin Feng looked at Duan Xiaolu in surprise. Senior brother Qin Feng, since we are all masters of the demonic Tao, we should be on the same side. With a smile, Duan Xiaolu glanced at a certain place in the sea of clouds. At least, I can't let you sneak attack me, right? Qin Feng smiled and glanced past the sea of clouds. They're just a bunch of trash that popped out from who knows where. How can I trouble junior brother Duan? Just leave these two to me. I'll have to trouble you to hold the line for me, junior brother. How bold of him! Many of the Bai family's geniuses sneered. This was a demon supreme being. And he was actually calling them trash. Wasn't that a little too bold? Even the few supreme beings present did not dare to call this overbearing and ferocious supreme being of the demonic Tao a mere chicken or pottery dog. A nameless flame flickered in the North Moon Demon Venerable's eyes as he stared at Qin Feng coldly. As a demon supreme being who had run amok in ancient times and had almost become a demon emperor of a region, when had he ever been underestimated like this? And, according to the intelligence, this was a junior who had only risen to prominence a few years ago. Qin Feng, I know that your attainments in the art of formations are exceptional. However, your attainments in the art of formations do not equate to your true strength. Those below the martial saint realm are all ant. In my eyes, you are an ant that I can crush at any time. The North Moon Demon Venerable called out coldly. He stood on the ground and swung his hand over. Terrifying power surged. Even from several hundred kilometers away, many of the geniuses in Heavenly Water City still felt their hearts pound violently, almost suffocating. The power of a demon supreme being, and he's no regular demon supreme being. Looking at his control over the laws, he's a demon supreme being at the second step at the very least. The two Bai family supreme beings were stern in the inner residence of the Bai family. They could tell that this demon supreme being was much more powerful than them. Bai Wooly sighed gently. He might be an ancient supreme being. This epoch has only just begun 1,000 years ago. It's impossible for such a powerful existence to have appeared. Qin Feng is probably in quite a lot of trouble. I wonder how Qin Feng managed to provoke an ancient supreme being of such a level. An ancient antique from the ancient times. Don't tell me I killed their descendant in the wilderness battlefield? Is that why he's jumped out to seek revenge? Qin Feng felt like he had killed a few bull's horns before. How dare you be distracted? The Demon King swung a huge hand towards Qin Feng. Boom! Countless pieces of space shattered, but in the eyes of the many supreme beings, the hand seemed to slow down by countless times. Qin Feng left his original spot calmly and silently, appearing behind the North Moon Demon Venerable. He's actually used the laws of space to such a level? The Star Venerable's robes fluttered as he stopped himself. A sliver of light flashed through his eyes. There's more to come. Chapter 989. Venerable North Moon was a bit stunned. Although his punch was ordinary, it contained the power of a supreme god law. Generally, if an existence below the supreme level were to be hit, even a sweep would be enough to shatter their bones, let alone a direct hit. God laws were not something that ordinary saint-level laws could touch. This was also the strongest point of a supreme powerhouse. But Qin Feng's space laws not only didn't collapse, but instead forcefully deflected his supreme god law. He didn't even manage to touch the corner of Qin Feng's clothes. Venerable North Moon was stunned for a moment before he felt a bit embarrassed. He had actually failed to deal with a mere 8th-level world king. He waved his fist and locked onto the nearby Qin Feng, punching out again. The sky was filled with fist marks, as if the void was completely covered. Heavenly Demon Combat Law. Qin Feng had obtained a portion of Duan Xiaolo's ancient demon inheritance, so he was no stranger to all sorts of demon secret techniques. The Heavenly Demon Combat Law was a type of ancient martial arts that was only suitable for the various demon races. If it was before I obtained the ancient demon inheritance, this technique might have been able to pressure me, but it's useless now. Qin Feng sneered. His figure was like a stream of light. The changes in space were all imprinted in his saint's soul. Without a sound, his figure was like a streak of white light. Countless fists smashed past him, but he handled them with ease. In Celestial Water City, many powerhouses watched this scene with their mouths agape. Under the full-force attack of a second step supreme, Qin Feng didn't even manage to touch the corner of his clothes. I never imagined that someone would be able to control the space laws to such a level. Unbelievable, unbelievable! A bi-family supreme sighed inwardly. Before, I thought he would only be able to last 2 or 3 moves in front of this supreme demon. I didn't expect his control of the space laws to reach such a level. No wonder he's so fearless. I'm afraid it's more than that. Didn't you notice that his laws can actually resist a god law? Bai Wuli's expression was heavy. Shouldn't that be normal? As one of the 12 true disciples of Xingqian school, he must possess true power of the heavenly Tao level. The true power of the heavenly Tao level does indeed possess a unique power. Normal god rules would find it hard to tear it apart. An elder of the Bai family looked puzzled. Bai Wuli shook his head. You aren't strong enough, so you can't see the most crucial things. I don't know which epoch that demon sovereign is from, but the laws in his body have long reached the level of the heavenly Tao. In fact, it's not low. It's at least at the 3rd or 4th level of the heavenly Tao. Upon hearing this, Bai Zhan, who was seated on the throne, appeared somewhat absent-minded. In that case, the essence of Qin Feng's energy is at least at the 7th level of the heavenly Tao. Bai Wuli gazed out of the city. I'm afraid so. If not for that, the disparity in strength between the two of them is so great. If not for the support of that mysterious true power, he would not have the ability to resist this demon venerable. 7 levels of heavenly Tao. Those who surpass the heavenly Tao will have the bearing of a demon god. Those who surpass the 4th heavenly Tao will be able to attempt the middle heaven deity position. Those who surpass the 7th heavenly Tao will at least be able to attempt the innate deity position. One of the Bai clan supremes murmured. Boom! Countless punches landed, and the North Moon Demon Venerable's face became uglier and uglier. God damn it, this kid is as slippery as a loach. If this continues, there'll probably be more problems. The North Moon Demon Venerable was rather furious. He was a true spirit descendant of the purple-eyed ox demon king. Even among the true spirits, the purple-eyed ox demon king was a peak true spirit. In the ancient era, he had once ruled over the province of Wilderness. He had even almost become a demon emperor. However, he had suffered misfortune repeatedly in this epoch. He had ended up in Gong Ao's hands the moment he was born, and Gong Ao had secretly suppressed him. Now that he was suppressed by Qin Feng, a powerhouse who had just become familiar with cultivation, the North Moon Demon Venerable erupted with black gold demon flames that could tear through the world. Crack! Crack! The sound of something shattering immediately rang out in the vast space. Under the stunned gazes of the many powerhouses in Heavenly Water City, huge cracks that seemed like chasms ripped open. 12 cracks appeared in the space. A distant and profound aura seeped out from the depths of each crack, as if they originated from the ancient era or an even more ancient era. The auras that had suddenly risen were the auras of 12 ninth-step false sovereigns. Streaks of black light rushed out from the cracks, followed by 12 strange metal pillars that seemed to hold up the world, reaching into the clouds. What's this? He sensed the sudden appearance of 12 godfiend copper pillars around him. Each of the 12 godfiend copper pillars seemed to have a lifelike godfiend phantom engraved on them. Roar! The ancient phenomenon seemed to be able to be traced back to the primordial era. 12 huge vortexes appeared in the surroundings. Boundless baleful chi surged in the surroundings, surrounding and devouring the 12 pillars like lightning. They gave off an aura of extreme viciousness. What kind of power is this? Why do these 12 pillars make me feel extremely uneasy? As soon as the 12 copper pillars appeared, the Bai clan paragon, Bai Shibing's face went pale. Even when he faced peak existences at the second step of heavenly venerables, he only felt reverence and fear. However, before the great fiend god formation formed by the 12 pillars, he actually felt like he was powerless to resist. It was as if he was unable to endure the terrifying pressure from the fiend gods. He was about to lose the courage to fight back. What a terrifying formation! It seals off the sky and locks down the earth. It's as if the entire world has been suppressed. The phenomena of the 12 fiend gods seemed to want to emerge from the 12 pillars. Heavens, what the hell is that? An elder of the Bai family's voice trembled slightly. He felt like his mind was about to tremble. As the 12 godfiend copper pillars swallowed and spat out the boundless fiendish chi of heaven and earth, strange fiend celestials with different ferocious faces floated out of the copper pillars. The terrifying figure that surrounded the North Moon demon Venerable gave off an aura that was no weaker than a supreme ancestor's aura. A thought flashed through Bai Wooly's head. It's the peak formation of the primordial demons, the celestial demon slaughtering array. It's the North Moon demon Venerable. This is the supreme demon god known as the North Moon demon god who suppressed the wilderness in the primordial era. He's actually revived. It's him, the North Moon demon god. He was once the supreme demon god of the purple-eyed ox demons. It's said that he once led the purple-eyed ox demons to a peak that the purple-eyed ox demons had never reached before. He unified the outskirts of the savage spirit domain and almost established a supreme demon kingdom that spanned across the savage spirit domain. Many of the experts came to a realization and gasped. With the appearance of the formation, Qin Feng could sense the North Moon demon Venerable's strength skyrocketing. Originally, he was only at the second step of heavenly venerables, but with the support of the 12 heavenly demon god puppets in the surrounding pillars, his strength skyrocketed. Qin Feng, to make me use the celestial demon slaughtering array, your death today will not be in vain, the North Moon demon Venerable said coldly. His dignified voice was like a god in the heavens, reaching into the depths of the soul. Rumble! Rumble! Space shattered, and a huge hand swung over with lightning speed. It shone brightly. Qin Feng could even see the clear patterns on the hand. Terrifying power surged, like a demon god of the world had unleashed a terrifying divine punishment to destroy the ant that tried to challenge the might of a demon god. There's more later. Chapter 990. The space collapsed. The entire sky was reduced to an endless, dark void. A colossal hand that blotted out the sky reached out from the depth. The colossal hand reached over as if it wanted to grab the entire world. After sealing up the space, Qin Feng seemed like he had nowhere to run this time. Is this your trump card? Looks like you should just be a so-called ancient powerhouse born in some weak epoch. Qin Feng stood in the air. His black robes fluttered in the wind as his long hair danced in the wind. His body was like a devil god that emitted light, suppressing the heavens. His head was held high as an unfathomable emotion flashed in his eyes. The Spirit Sea continent had gone through many epochs. However, not every epoch was as prosperous as the Golden Era. There were even some epochs that only gave birth to a single demon god in the end. As a matter of fact, the extinction of demon gods was not unheard of. Epochs were weak, and the laws of the world were strict like a heavenly lock. No matter how powerful a genius was, they could not do anything before the suppression of the laws of the world. Existences like the ancient Sway sovereign and the Eastern Wilderness Emperor were still as rare as phoenix feathers in the end. Naturally, epochs were weak. The powerhouses born from them were usually much weaker than regular great eras. A supreme, dignified figure emerged from the dense divine light. Currently, the North Moon demon Venerable was surrounded by countless bolts of lightning. The dense power of laws made him seem like he was shining with blinding light. As he raged, his power became greater and greater. The entire world seemed to tremble violently with his fury. Several hundred kilometers away in Heavenly Water City, countless bolts of lightning intertwined and fell like a storm. Countless cultivators in the city trembled. Before these two powers, many cultivators were like ants. They could be reduced to ashes with just a brush. You're not the only one with external powers. A layer of starlight surged around Qin Feng. Within 5,000 kilometers, all the powerhouses immediately saw a colossal star fall down from the distant horizon. The terrifying starlight pierced through the clouds and landed directly on Qin Feng. The support of the primeval Lord Star. Boom! Another huge tsunami sounded like a clap of thunder. The powers of the ancient water elemental world and the northern dragon realm appeared on Qin Feng's body one after another. With the support of his power, his aura surged out in all directions like a tsunami. Suddenly, the power he gave off was no weaker than the North Moon demon Venerable. Qin Feng extended a pure white finger and extended it. Like a streak of light, it directly pierced through the huge hand and landed on the North Moon demon Venerable's shoulder. Bang! Blood spurted out. It was as if a divine weapon had torn apart the body of a demon god. A huge bloody hole appeared. He actually pierced the demon Venerable Northmoon's sovereign divine law with a single finger and injured him? The faces of many supreme beings changed abruptly. Roar! With the demon god's body damaged, the North Moon demon Venerable's eyes turned scarlet as he let out a painful hiss. A sliver of thunderous fury flashed through his eyes. He ignored the huge wound and swung his huge hand towards Qin Feng like a bolt of lightning. Boom! In the next moment, it appeared above Qin Feng's head and smashed down heavily. Many experts closed their eyes. This palm strike was terrifying enough to turn Qin Feng into a meat patty. Roar! A distant and profound ancient aura rang out from the depths of space. It seemed to originate from the immemorial era, or an even more ancient era. Everyone saw that Qin Feng had already changed his appearance. He had a dragon's tail, a human's body and dragon horns. He was several meters tall, and a terrifying pitch-black dragon claw suddenly grabbed the huge hand above his head. True form of the dragon. The North Moon demon Venerable's face changed. Even if you've cultivated the body of a true dragon, so what? It's not like I haven't killed a true dragon in the immemorial era. A pitch-black, vicious blade appeared in his hand. A sharp saber light appeared on the long saber. This was the treasure that had made the North Moon demon Venerable famous, the heavenly demon god's slaying blade. It was rumored that he had obtained a piece of divine metal from an ancient dwelling and nurtured it for 1,000 years before forging it with the horn of the purple-eyed ox demon. It was a first-rate treasure of slaughter, an immemorial divine armament. Boom! It was as if the sky had been cleaved open by the blade. Time froze. It suddenly struck Qin Feng. Boom! The ground shook. Like a stream of light, Qin Feng's figure suddenly burrowed into the mountain. The entire mountain range was trembling. The light from the blade cleaved the mountain range into two like a hot knife through butter. The terrifying power vaguely appeared in the eyes of the many powerful cultivators of Heavenly Water City. It was exceptionally terrifying. Is he heavily injured? Beside Baiyin Baijan was rather worried. The various sovereigns stared into the depths of the mountain range with furrowed brows. Many sovereigns looked at the Star Venerable. The Star Venerable's eyes were as cold as lightning. He was completely expressionless, like the eternal stars. No one knew what the schoolmaster of Xingqian School was thinking. He's not heavily injured. The powerful cultivators of Xingqian School all have life-bound stars. The main star of the immemorial era above his head shines with resplendent starlight. Clearly, the North Moon Demon Venerable's blade did not harm him. The sovereign of Snow Region glanced at the Star Venerable and said. Beside Baiyuer, Baijan was in disbelief. Even the full-powered strike of the North Moon Demon Venerable, whose equivalent to the third part of a sovereign, could not harm him? A sliver of displeasure flashed through her eyes. Bai Yen'er glanced at Baiyuer. This aunt of hers is becoming more and more detestable. The North Moon Demon Venerable scanned the surroundings sternly, searching for Qin Feng's traces. In the next moment, his face changed, and he was about to retreat. He left the mountain range. However, it was already too late. Heavenly Steel Profound Technique, Chaotic Reversal. Qin Feng appeared behind him silently. Countless black lotuses danced around him. It was the Thousand Leaves Water God, the Black Lotus. It was this lotus that had protected him at the very last moment. His eyes shone like stars, and his surroundings shone like a demon god. He formed a seal, and in the next moment, he suddenly appeared above the North Moon Demon Venerable's head. The immemorial devil steel landed heavily on the North Moon Demon Venerable's demonic body, who had yet to react. Boom! His entire body suddenly split into pieces. It was reduced to pieces of flesh and blood. Blood-red light surged into the air. His body exploded. Boom! It was as if the several hundred kilometers of space, and even the mountain range, had been completely destroyed by this strike. It had turned into a black hole of chaotic water, wind, and fire. A terrifying power pierced through space, preventing it from healing for a very long time. The Heavenly Steel Profound Technique. The first method was collapse, the second method was demon suppression, the third method was chaotic reversal, and the fourth method was God-slaying. As Qin Feng comprehended the essence of the immemorial path of sacrifice, the immemorial path of shaman, and the immemorial path of demons, this ultimate technique on the level of godfiends unleashed unbelievable power. With this strike, the North Moon Demon Venerable, who was basically at the third step of the Supreme Exalt realm, split into pieces. Even his soul had been reduced to pieces by the power of chaotic reversal. As a matter of fact, even the true spirit imprint embedded in the depths of the laws had been completely destroyed by the power of chaotic reversal. He had completely lost his chance at resurrection. Rumble! With the death of the Demon Venerable, the essence scattered within several thousand kilometers. The world seemed to darken as rain poured down. In Heavenly Water City, many powerful cultivators emerged from their rooms and raised their head. In the next moment, their expressions changed drastically. A rain of blood. Dark red rain poured down in torrents. This was the phenomenon of a Supreme Exalt dying. What a terrifying strike! Not only has the Demon Venerable Northman's demon god body been reduced to pieces with a single strike, but even his soul has been annihilated. In the Bai family Supreme, Bai Wuli watched from afar. His face was rather pale, and his lips trembled slightly. The strike seemed simple, but just how earth-shattering was it in that instant? The gazes of many Supreme Exalts wandered, allowing the lightning to strike and the rain of blood to pour down. It was as if their souls were still in the midst of the devastating strike. They could not forget it for a very long time. It was as if their soul sense had been shattered into thousands of pieces by the strike, dying with the North Moon Demon Venerable. Chapter 991. After killing the North Moon Demon Venerable, Qin Feng could clearly sense that the fortune enveloping him had become even denser. He really is an old antique that has been revived from the ancient times. After killing him, I've received the favor of another fortune. Qin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. In the next moment, his gaze landed on an area of space. There's one more. The second art of the heavenly steel, demon suppression. He formed a hand seal silently, and an invisible, profound light radiated from the hand seal, sweeping through the space. Within several hundred kilometers, the mountains that had been reduced to nothingness suddenly froze. They were immobilized. In the void, a green-haired demon venerable appeared from the depths of the void. He looked at Qin Feng with a horrified expression. Countless green-colored Dharma light rushed out from his body, but he could not break free from the suppression for a while. He clearly possessed an ancient aura that did not belong to this epoch. Another second-step sovereign? Beside him, a sliver of surprise flashed through Duan Xiaolo's eyes. The third art, chaotic reversal. A cold sneer flashed through Qin Feng's eyes. Boom! He struck out heavily with a hand seal. Space exploded, and even demon venerable Mu in the depths of space silently shattered into thousands of pieces within the profound light. Even his soul exploded into thousands of pieces. Boom! The scattered essence turned into a rain of blood, intensifying the phenomenon of a sovereign dying within a radius of 500 kilometers. Qin Feng could sense that fortune had descended upon him after killing demon venerable Mu, merging with his body. The fortune still merged with his body, as if it had fused with the saint's soul in the depths of his body. It immediately blasted through a thin barrier. Qin Feng felt like his saint's soul seemed to have fused with an extremely ancient star among the billions of galaxies. He gave off dense starlight, as if the starlight of the billions of galaxies was pouring down. The surging starlight fell from the sky like a waterfall. Within 5,000 kilometers of Heavenly Water City, everyone could see the billions of stars in the form of the extremely dense white sun. Not far away from Heavenly Water City, many reincarnated powerhouses could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. They gazed at the center of the interweaving starlight and could not help but feel like worshipping. A star venerable had been born, and he was no ordinary star venerable. At the very least, he was a star monarch of a main star. Qin Feng seemed to have become one with an ancient star. The power of billions of galaxies washed over his body. Vaguely, Qin Feng seemed to have turned into a star made of flesh and blood. His skin and even his pores were emitting starlight. Qin Feng didn't know how powerful a main star was, but as he broke through the third realm of Star Fate Cultivator, Qin Feng felt that the primeval star in the sky seemed to have turned into his divine kingdom in the sky. Even if it was only for a short period of time, a power that was not inferior to the chaos world was born. The surging astral energy flowed into his body. Qin Feng circulated the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven Scroll and fused the astral energy into his body. The cultivation of the 8 Desolates Indestructible Heaven Scroll consumed a great deal of vital energy. Even with the backing of the primal chaos world, Qin Feng had never dared to unleash his full power. Now that he had broken through, the vision of the galaxy appeared, and he immediately unleashed his full power. Qin Feng was like the king of billions of galaxies. Countless runes emerged from the depths of his bones, and a divine land was vaguely born in the depths of his heart. As the vital energy swallowed became more intense, the divine land became more and more substantial. The heart of a region? Looking at the divine land condensed from countless illusory divine lands, Qin Feng was overjoyed. This was the 7th level of the 8 Desolates Indestructible Heaven Scroll, the heart of a region. It corresponded to the origin region under the reflection of the origin of heaven and earth. After cultivating this level, Qin Feng could be called the Saint Emperor of a region and receive the support of the Spirit Sea Continent's power. The Spirit Sea continent was known as the 3,000 regions, but it was actually more than that. Although the power of a region seemed inferior to that of a large country, in fact, the support of the power of a region was much more powerful than that of a large country or a divine kingdom. Moreover, it had many mysterious and wonderful uses. Qin Feng knew that in the 3,000 regions, there was no lack of experts who had refined a region and received the support of the heart of a region, thus becoming the Saint Emperor of a region. The status of a region's Saint Emperor was not inferior to the strength of a region's overlord. Moreover, there were many benefits to becoming the Saint Emperor of a region. However, some regions could not have Saint Emperors. For example, in the realm of stars, Xingqian school used a formation to suppress the realm of stars. Almost all the dragons and snakes in the realm of stars were suppressed, and it was impossible for a Saint Emperor to be born. Another example was the 9 great divine lands, the 10 divine sects, and many aristocratic families suppressing the dragon veins. Even if a peerless expert appeared, it was impossible to break the pattern and refine the heart of a region. Qin Feng did not expect the 8 Desolates' indestructible heaven scroll to be so mysterious. It could directly refine a region and obtain the heart of a region from a distance. At this moment, various regions appeared in his mind, including some of the regions in the sea. However, many of the regions were shrouded in dense energy. With just a glance, Qin Feng knew that these regions were suppressed by the sect's fate and could not be refined. This included the realm of stars where Xingqian school was located, the southern spirit region where Heaven and Earth sect was located, the desolate spirit region where Man Huang was located, the snow region where Snow Region sect was located, the longevity region where Crimson Firmament Sword sect was located, the Langya spirit region where Ji Xian sect was located. These sects were extremely vicious, and their fate had turned into shadows that covered the sky. Once these regions were touched, Qin Feng knew that there would be great trouble. After obtaining the recognition of the heart of a region, one would be an enlarged version of the mountain god, water god, and earth god. A region's Saint Emperor was, in fact, the god of mountains and rivers. Although such a status was not an orthodox demon god, it was comparable to some 5th-grade deity positions. In fact, the heart of a region formed by some powerful divine lands was comparable to a 4th-grade deity position. Qin Feng looked around. Most of the 3,000 regions had owners, or there was an unknown terrifying black qi. Once he chose one, it would be inauspicious. I think Gong Ao should have broken through this realm long ago. I wonder which region he chose. Qin Feng glanced around. Most of these regions were hazy. He could only sense the aura within and deduce the dangers within, but he could not see clearly. Qin Feng decided to choose one of the prefectures around the 10-spirit region to refine. That was because the refinement of the heart of a region was not something that could be done just by obtaining the recognition of the region. He had to obtain the recognition of the living beings of the region before he could complete the 7th level of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven Scroll and enter the 8th level of the Great Emperor Realm. It's you then. Qin Feng's gaze landed on a region that seemed to have a medium topography. This was the Northern Spirit region. This was the region under his feet. The original overlord of this region was the Great Sunlight Temple. If the Great Sunlight Temple was still around, Qin Feng would not have a chance to refine the heart of this region. However, the Biling sect had taken over. Although the Biling sect was also an old sect, they had only taken over the Northern Spirit region not long ago. Many of the joints of the Northern Spirit region's earth veins had yet to be shrouded and refined by formations. This gave Qin Feng a chance. There's more later. Chapter 992. The formation of the region heart was very fast. After confirming the location of the Northern Spiritual region, the illusory image of the region immediately fused with Qin Feng's heart. It absorbed the starlight in the sky and became one. After condensing the heart of the region, Qin Feng could feel the goodwill from the northern spiritual region. The countless heavenly treasures hidden in the depths of the northern spiritual region, as well as the ancient ruins, were almost all available. Stepping on the ground would give him endless power. This was the 7th level of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heavens Scroll. It was just the 7th level of the Saint Emperor realm. Qin Feng felt that there were still many places in the northern spiritual region that were suppressed and occupied by some experts or even sections. He could not use them. The 7th level was not complete. Only by subduing these families and sects and making them submit to him would he be able to complete the 8th level of the Great Emperor realm. It seems that this trip to Tianshui City is not only for the marriage alliance with the Bai family. There are many other things to do. Qin Feng looked thoughtful. The Bai family was a big family in the northern spiritual region. If he wanted to become a region Saint Emperor, he could not do without the support of the Bai family. As for the conditions, Qin Feng already had an idea. Following the vision of the Star Sovereign, the stars in the sky turned into starlight and scattered. Qin Feng could feel that an abundant amount of energy was constantly flowing into his body. It was as if he had become the ruler of this land. With a single thought, he could mobilize 10 times the power outside of the northern spiritual region. It was as if the entire northern spiritual region had become his spiritual region. I'm afraid that's the most powerful aspect of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heavens Scroll. I wonder which prefecture Gong Ao has refined. He's always appearing and disappearing mysteriously. He's not in the star sect or the realm of stars. I'm afraid he's refining that prefecture. I'm afraid that the forces in that region heart have been completely subdued. The 7th level is close to the Deshang realm. I'm far behind him. Qin Feng's heart was heavy. At this moment, Qin Feng's expression changed. After condensing the heart of the region in the northern spiritual region, his spiritual sense had increased by 10 times or even 100 times compared to before. At this moment, he could sense that there was a purple-clothed middle-aged man with half of his hair white watching him from the depths of the void. The purple-clothed man stood in the depths of the void without emanating any aura. However, Qin Feng could sense an extremely terrifying aura from this person. The 2 demon venerables from before were not even worth mentioning before him. He actually discovered me? In the depths of the void, the purple-robed man saw Qin Feng's gaze and his expression changed slightly. You've broken through the 3rd realm of star fate cultivators, the Star Monarch realm. Has your strength increased greatly? The purple-robed man mumbled to himself with a strange look in his eyes. He even sighed. The North Moon Demon Venerable and Emu were trashed too. Not only did they fail to kill Qin Feng, but they were even killed by Qin Feng instead. With his insight, how could he not tell that if it were not for the fact that he had devoured the remnant fate of the 2 primeval demon venerables, how could Qin Feng have broken through to the 3rd step in the star fate realm? However, your cultivation isn't enough to keep you alive. The purple-robed man sneered. Just when he was about to attack, his expression suddenly changed. He raised his head and sensed from afar that a terrifying aura had locked onto him from the Bai family's residence in Heavenly Water City. All of his hairs stood on end. The power of the heavenly immortal realm. This sect master has actually broken through to the heavenly immortal realm too. How is that possible? His eyes widened and narrowed violently. He shivered all over. The purple-robed man's eyes changed as he coldly glanced at Qin Feng. So be it. The Star Venerable is here to protect you, so I'll let you live for a few more days. The next time we meet, it'll be the day you die. The purple-robed man sneered and silently ripped open space to leave. He's running away? Seeing the purple-robed man leave, Qin Feng was shocked. He could feel the purple-robed man's hostility towards him. Suddenly, he turned around and glanced at Heavenly Water City. Did the Star Venerable make a move? Qin Feng pondered for a moment. That purple-robed man was definitely an existence that surpassed the third step of the Supremes. Even if he had broken through to the third step of the Star Fate realm and refined a trace of the province's heart, the most he could do was protect himself. If he wanted to take advantage of such an expert, he would have to wait until he had passed the fifth heaven's blight or completely refined the province's heart. I don't know which side they are from, but they actually sent such an existence to cause trouble for me. Qin Feng's heart was heavy. He secretly guessed, could it be someone from the godly temple? Not long ago, I caused a ruckus in Lion Camel City, and they saw through it, so they sent someone to take revenge? Qin Feng felt that it wasn't impossible. Or maybe it's the dragon race. Qin Feng remembered that in the Dragonization Pagoda, he had messed with the second-generation dragon sons and caused many of them to lose their opportunities. The battle for the Grand Tao would not end until one of them was dead. Or maybe it's someone from the Xingqian school. This wasn't impossible. In the Xingqian school, Qin Feng had offended many experts. Last time, he had completely offended Ying Tianqing. There was also Gong Ao and Yi Ding. I don't care anymore. In any case, my own strength is the foundation. Qin Feng shook his head and his gaze fell on Duan Xiaolu. This time, I have to thank junior brother Duan. Duan Xiaolu looked at Qin Feng and smiled. Big brother Qin Feng, you must be joking. This time, you relied on yourself. I was only here to watch the show. With that, he continued. Big brother Qin Feng, I came to the Bai family of Heavenly Water City this time mainly because of the guidance of a fortuitous encounter. I've already achieved my goal with your generous assistance. I still have matters to attend to, so I should take my leave. I wish you the best of luck in obtaining the beauty. Qin Feng nodded. If you need anything, you can directly go to the Qin family of Trust Cloud Lake City. If that's the case, big brother. Farewell. Duan Xiaolu clasped his fist. With a flash, he shot across the sky like a black streak of light, vanishing without a trace. Qin Feng turned around. With a wave of his hand, many scattered treasures were pulled out from space. This included the North Moon Demon Venerable's celestial demon god slaying blade. There was also the spiritual root seed left behind by the Emu Demon Venerable. There were also some personal items left behind by the two demon venerables after their death. Qin Feng simply unleashed the power of the laws of space and swept these treasures away, sending them into the chaotic world. Many experts watched this with rather envious eyes. The random items aside, the celestial demon god slaying blade was a rather famous immemorial mystical armament of the immemorial era. It was infamous for its ferocity. In a single step, he had already appeared in Heavenly Water City and stepped into his own house. For the next few days, Qin Feng had been in seclusion to familiarize himself with the power of the third level of Star Fate realm. At the same time, he was preparing the second gift. However, although the storm outside Heavenly Water City had already dissipated, an invisible undercurrent had silently spread to the entire northern spiritual region and even the surrounding 10 spiritual regions with the Bai family as the center. The combat strength that Qin Feng had displayed was too eye-catching. This kind of strength had already reached the point where it could affect the balance of a large force. This Qin Feng must not be left alive. With him around, I'm afraid that he will become the biggest variable in the plan of the sects to divide the Xingqian school. In the Bai family's inner house, the eyes of several sect masters who were secretly communicating with each other flickered with a fierce light. There's more later. Chapter 993. No matter what, we can't let the Xingqian school and the Bai family join the Xingqian school through marriage. As for Qin Feng, we must kill him. Maybe we can cooperate with the Greater One sect. Dongfang Weiming of the Greater One sect is here. He's a disciple of an extremely powerful elder of the Greater One sect. If we can let Qin Feng kill Dongfang Weiming, it'll be even better. If we can pull the Greater One sect into the alliance, we'll be more confident in destroying the Xingqian school. We can try. In short, no matter what, this level 8 formation king of Xingqian school must not be allowed to live. In the darkness, several figures were filled with bone-chilling killing intent. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In the Bai Emperor's Great Hall, the 11 candidates all arrived in front of the White Emperor's Great Hall. Unexpectedly, many young ladies of the White clan followed them. They were all chattering, thin and round. There were many outstanding girls in the Bai family. Seeing these girls come forward to greet them one by one. Among these girls, there were also many young geniuses who came to watch the ceremony. Many elders of the Bai family not only did not stop them, but also seemed to be happy to see it happen. Among them, most of the elders and young experts in front of the Great Hall had their eyes on Qin Feng and Dongfang Weiming. Whether it was in terms of status or strength, these two were the most promising. As for Tang Ying of the Taishu sect, Jin Yu, Yin Ming, and Lin Ling, although their identities were extraordinary, they were still a little inferior to the two in front. However, many people were very optimistic about Lin Ling. This peerless genius of the water swamp divine region's Lin family had always kept a low profile. The Supremes have arrived. As a voice resounded through the square, the most powerful group of people in the 10-spirit region appeared on the side of the square from afar. Soon, they arrived in front of everyone. Everyone's footsteps paused slightly. They glanced at everyone in the square and landed on the 11 candidate. Bai Zhan, the head of the Bai family, said, "Everyone, please enter the hall." The group entered the main hall and took their seat. Bai Zhan, the head of the Bai clan, looked around. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day of the second round of the Bai clan's public betrothal contest. Let's make it short. The rules are the same as before, but this second round will be a test of sincerity. All right, 11 candidates, you may present your gifts one by one. According to the seating order. The first seat was occupied by the yellow-robed, wooden youth. Honorable Supremes, this is my gift. This item is called the Earth Star. It was refined from the Earth Spirit crystals that I extracted from the cores of various spirit veins when I went to various spirit or veins. It contains a total of 1,314 types of spirit crystals of various attribute. It symbolizes a lifetime. Consider it a small gift. This young man claimed to be a martial sage. He muttered to himself for a while before he waved his hand. A small ball that was emitting a 7-colored glow appeared in his hand. This gift was quite precious. Many spirit crystals were treasures that could only be nurtured in the cores of earth spirit veins. One spirit crystal that fell into the ground could nurture a spirit or vein. 1,314 types of spirit crystals were perfectly fused together. Not to mention the effort involved, just the amount of spiritual energy that could be produced at every moment was extremely precious. This was practically a portable, man-made spiritual energy grotto heaven. Regardless of whether it was his thoughts or intentions, they were all top-notch. Many honorable Supremes nodded their heads. After that, the candidates presented their gifts one by one. Many of the gifts shone brightly. Many of the gifts were novel and unique. It was an eye-opener for everyone who watched the ceremony. Many of the talented ladies could not help but wish that these young powerful martial artists had come for their own families. Bai Zhan nodded his head from time to time, his eyes filled with joy. Although this round was more precious than the treasures that were presented, each of the treasures that were presented was priceless. They would be valuable treasures in any clan. On Qin Feng's left were Tang Ying, Jin Yu, Yin Ming, Wu Chu, and another disciple of the evil spirit path, a hidden orthodoxy. The ones closest to him were Dongfang Weiming and Lin Ling from the Lin family of Water Xin. After the disciple of the evil spirit path presented his gift, it was Lin Ling's turn. Honorable martial sages, please take a look at my gift. A confident smile appeared on Lin Ling's face. He stretched out a hand and a three-legged, pale golden cauldron appeared in his hand. The round lid of the cauldron opened, and an extremely rich fragrance suddenly appeared. From afar, a few hundred feet away, many of the powerful martial artists could feel that their powers had increased by quite a bit just by smelling the fragrance. It was an elixir. Many of the young powerful martial artists' eyes moved. Tens of thousands of stars flew out from the cauldron and vaguely turned the entire hall into a starry sky of elixirs. This is my gift, the 10,000 starlight. I personally went to the Alchemy Union headquarters and asked hundreds of alchemy masters to personally make it. There are a total of 9,999 elixirs, each of them different and of different type. They range from first-grade elixirs to seventh-grade elixirs. They are scattered all over the place. Everyone's eyes were focused on the sky above the hall without blinking. 9,999 types of elixirs, and more than 10 seventh-grade elixirs. This kind of wealth is really amazing. Not to mention the value, the amount of manpower and resources spent is probably an astronomical figure, the Snow Domain Supremes exclaimed. Especially the most precious 7th-grade elixirs. Only 7th-grade alchemy grandmasters could refine 7th-grade elixirs. There were only a few 7th-grade alchemy grandmasters in the Alchemy Union, and each of them had an important position in the Spirit Sea continent. Even the Black Sect of Snow Domain couldn't ask for their help. 7th-grade elixirs? Baijan looked at the dozens of 7th-grade elixirs. This kind of elixir was very useful even for Supremes. In the hall, many young experts gulped. What a big gift! Just this one aspect alone was enough to defeat all the others in front of him. Beside Qin Feng, Dongfang Weiming's face was ashen. Even as a successor of the Greater One sect, he didn't have this kind of ability. In the Alchemy Union, there were many alchemists, each more famous than the other. It took a lot of effort to ask for a 6th-grade alchemist, let alone a 7th-grade alchemy grandmaster. Dongfang Weiming silently took out the gift he had prepared. It was a rainbow feather garment, which looked extremely beautiful. Every strand was made from the silk of the top-grade sky silkworm, and every strand was different. This rainbow feather garment was not only beautiful, but also had outstanding defensive power. The hem of the garment was inlaid with many enhancement spiritual pearls. Those were all top-grade spiritual pearls. It could transform into its second form, which was an extremely beautiful battle garment. But in the eyes of everyone, it was still a bit inferior to the starlight myriad rays. Next was Qin Feng's turn. When Qin Feng saw the starlight myriad rays, he smiled. This time, he had prepared elixirs. He was a 9th-grade alchemy god and had a pill river. So he didn't prepare 9,999 types of elixirs, but 1,000,000 pill rivers. Chapter 994. Honorable Supremes, my gift overlaps with young Master Dongfang's gift. Qin Feng smiled from his seat. Upon hearing that Qin Feng's gift was also an elixir, many experts exchanged glances and shook their heads. With Lin Ling's example, the same elixir would be inferior. Even Baijan, who had high hopes for Qin Feng, shook his head. It wasn't that he didn't have confidence in Qin Feng. It was just that the prodigal Dongfang Weiming had given out so many elixirs that it was beyond the imagination of many experts. 9,999 types of elixirs, almost covering most of the current types of elixirs. Even some of the top sects couldn't take out so many elixirs in such a short period of time. Thousands of starlights flew out and countless swirling lights appeared in front of everyone. This was a river of divine light stars, a river of pure elixir stars. Many Supremes didn't see it clearly at first, but after seeing it clearly, their eyes widened. What the heck? This river wasn't water, but a long river of pure elixirs. There was no lack of elixirs that were very precious to Supremes. This is my million elixir river, which is made up of millions of elixirs. There are more than tens of thousands of different types of elixirs, all refined by me personally. Among them, there are more than 100 7th-grade elixirs and more than a dozen 8th-grade elixirs. Qin Feng described calmly and glanced at Dongfang Weiming, who was a little dumbfounded. A group of Supremes stared at Qin Feng with their eyes wide open. 100 7th-grade elixirs and more than a dozen 8th-grade elixirs? 1,000,000 types of elixirs. If they hadn't seen the million elixir river with their own eyes, many Supremes would have slapped him. Dream on. Needless to say, the people of the Bai family were even more shocked. Some elders were already about to faint on the ground. This wasn't shock. It was joy. 1,000,000 types of elixirs. With this elixir river, who knew how many experts would be born in the Bai family? At this moment, the Star Venerable's emotions were complicated. If he could, he wanted to slap Qin Feng to death right now. 1,000,000 medicinal pills were given out just like that. This was the heavens. If he fell into the hands of Xingqian school, who knew how many experts would appear? At that time, would he still have to worry about the schemes of the Qiankuan sect and the godly temple in the wilderness? What made the Star Venerable remain calm was one of Qin Feng's words. Baijian could no longer restrain his shock and took the initiative to ask, "Qin Feng, are you saying that you were the one who refined these millions of pills?" As soon as he said that, all the supreme beings stared at Qin Feng. "That's right." Qin Feng smiled. Hearing this, Lin Ling, who was trembling all over, seemed to have caught Qin Feng's weakness and immediately laughed out loud. "Qin Feng, you're too ridiculous. Not only are there 6th-grade pills, but there are also 7th-grade and 8th-grade divine pills. Your lies are too cheap. You don't even know how to lie." "That's right, Qin Feng. This round of gifts is a competition of sincerity and effort. You have no proof. Even though these millions of pills are precious, how can they compare to the gifts you prepared yourself?" Xian Zhiyang, the Qiankuan sect leader, spoke at the right time. "That's right. This round is a competition of sincerity and effort, not precious gift. Sincerity and effort naturally have to be done personally. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to use these gifts in this round." Another supreme being chimed in as well. Xingqian school and the Bai family definitely couldn't have a marriage alliance. Although they said that, the supreme beings couldn't help but be envious when they saw the millions of pill rivers. If not for their status, the supreme beings would definitely snatch them away. 1,000,000 pills? He gave them away just like that. If one were to ask who the biggest prodigal in the Linghai continent was in the past, no one would be able to tell. However, today it would definitely be Qin Feng without a doubt. Qin Feng indeed didn't care at all. As a 9th-level drug god, he had planted countless spiritual herbs, spiritual roots, and millions of pill rivers in the chaotic world. It would only take half a month. Qin Feng might be stingy with other things. He really didn't care about these pills. Upon hearing the Supreme Being's words, Baijian immediately became anxious. "Sect masters, aren't you a little biased when you say that? These millions of pill rivers weren't easy to obtain. Even if they weren't refined by martial nephew Qin Feng, they should have been refined with great effort. How can they not be sincere?" Baijian wished he could immediately remove the status of these judges. What kind of judges were they? How could they push away such a generous son-in-law? 1,000,000 pills. Baijian was roaring in his heart. He wished he could swallow the entire pill river in one gulp. Another supreme being shook his head repeatedly. "No, rules are rules. They can't be broken. The gifts in this round must be made by oneself. Otherwise, how can it be called sincerity and effort? If so many pills were obtained by the Bai clan, wouldn't the Bai clan immediately become a sitting tiger? At that time, the Bai clan and Xingqian school would join forces and the alliance of sects would go bankrupt. How could that be? The Bai clan and the supreme beings were about to argue with each other. Qin Feng, however, chuckles. Everyone, there's no need to argue. It's actually very easy to prove whether or not I can refine these various pills. I'll personally refine a few 8th grade divine pills here in the White Emperor's Great Hall so that all the Supremes can put an end to the dispute. What? The sect masters, who were arguing until their faces were red, turned around and stared blankly at Qin Feng. The Star Venerable's eyes lit up. He could refine 8th-level divine pills? As everyone knew, alchemists who could refine 8th-level divine pills were usually 8th-level drug emperors. If Qin Feng was an 8th-level drug emperor, the Star Venerable's heart trembled, and he almost broke the silver beard in his hand. Qin Feng didn't care about the expressions of the other experts. His gaze flickered, and a gust of true energy shot out from his sleeves. He grabbed at the void, and it was as if he tore a hole in the void, forming a huge cauldron out of thin air. Using heaven and earth as the cauldron, nature as the workmanship, and the void as the fire and water. Good technique. The supreme being of the Bai clan, Bai Wuli, couldn't help but praise. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was a real expert. Using heaven and earth as the cauldron, this was a technique that only top-notch alchemists could use. Just this technique alone made many experts believe in Qin Feng's word. Qin Feng smiled faintly. His divine sense connected with the void of various dimensions. With a soft shout, many dimensional spaces opened up in the void. The dimensional spaces contained various kinds of yuan qi that flowed down like a river. All sorts of vital energy fell into the cauldron. Alchemists at Qin Feng's level could even use laws to form pills. Some pills didn't even need spiritual herbs, spiritual roots, or spiritual flowers. They were created by heaven and earth. Qin Feng flicked his other finger, and a wisp of fire entered the cauldron formed by the vital energy of heaven and earth. Boom! The fire soared into the sky, visible to the naked eye, and a fragrance filled the air. Suddenly, thousands of jade-green pills flew out from the cauldron, rushing in all directions. Like a storm. This is a 4th-level vital energy pill, and each of them is of the highest quality? A Bai-family expert caught one of the pills, and exclaimed with a single glance. 4th-level vital energy pill. This was a type of pill that low-level martial artists often took. Everyone recognized it. Many experts grabbed the pills that were flying towards them. With just a glance, their eyes widened in shock. It's real? Some supreme martial artist's brains went blank. There's more later. Chapter 995. Following that, a large number of spiritual pills flew out. The more precious a spiritual pill was, the higher the requirement for the quality of yuan qi. Some spirit pills could no longer be refined by just using yuan qi. Qin Feng began to use the chaotic world to pick some precious spiritual herbs that he usually cultivated and added them into the mix. Even so, the spiritual pills that flew out like beans were too much for the eyes of many experts to take in. Many spiritual pills flew out of the Bai residence, attracting many geniuses to chase after them. For a moment, the Bai residence was bustling with activity. The busybodies outside Tianshui City were dazzled. Then, a 7th-grade divine pill was born. A dazzling white divine light appeared from the pill furnace, and a heavenly tribulation thunder seemed to be born above the Bai Emperor's main hall. Boom! Lightning fell from the sky, and a spiritual pill soared into the sky. It's a 7th-grade black ice divine pill, the best among the ice-type spiritual pills? Supreme Shui Yu's face lit up. He stretched out a hand, and the void exploded. Another hand reached out from the void and grabbed the white divine pill with lightning speed. This was a divine pill that exuded a strong chill. It was like a 10,000-year-old glacier. Even though it was just a breath, the moon goddess behind him felt the power of the law of ice in her body increase greatly. It was comparable to a year of hard work. Boom! At that moment, a strong fluctuation of the law of fire surged, and a huge sun flew out from the pill furnace in the main hall. It was a fire-type divine pill. The intense power of the law of fire flew out from the divine pill like a golden crow in the sky, burning the heavens and the earth. A 7th-grade fire-type divine pill, blazing flame divine pill? The sect master of the Crimson Shao Sword sect was delighted. A blazing sword light that swept across the heavens and the earth flew out from his body. Before anyone else could, it wrapped around the fire-type divine pill and fell into his hand. After looking at it for a while, the red-haired old man's face lit up with joy. It's really the real deal, and it's at the peak of the law of fire. It's the best among the blazing flame divine pills. Bang! At that moment, countless lightning bolts exploded in the sky. Many experts looked at it with a single glance, and they were shocked. Dark clouds gathered above the White Emperor's Great Hall, forming extremely dark clouds. It's an extremely high-level heavenly tribulation. Considering the level of this pill tribulation, I'm afraid that the pills produced from this batch are far beyond grade 7. Bai Wuli's expression changed. Boom! The sky cracked open as a bolt of lightning blasted down. However, when it was 3 feet above the Great Hall, a formless energy appeared. That bolt of lightning seemed to have solidified above the Great Hall, unable to descend. It was Qin Feng's law of space. Although the pill tribulation heavenly lightning was extremely terrifying, it could not break through the invisible spatial barrier that enveloped Bai Emperor Palace. Boom! An intense divine light appeared from within the pill furnace. The pill hadn't been born yet. Countless strange phenomena appeared in the cauldron. Blazing lightning tore through the air, and the dense law of thunder seemed to have turned into plasma, emitting blazing electric light. Qin Feng's hand seals changed, and countless thunder attributes, spiritual objects, and spiritual roots were refined in an orderly manner. Among them, there was no lack of primordial treasures. Everyone was dazzled by the sight. While they were secretly amazed by Qin Feng's wealth, they couldn't help but have some other thoughts. Especially the few supreme martial artists who originally harbored great malice towards Qin Feng. Boom! At this moment, a dazzling blue light flew out from the cauldron, and a divine pill flew out and fell into the void. The pill's energy circulated and absorbed the elemental energy within 1,000 miles. It turned into a lightning hoe that could be seen with the naked eye, and it fled upon seeing the light. Qin Feng saw this and didn't stop it. The grade 8 divine pill already had a life of its own. If it was lucky enough, this lightning hoe would be able to develop a physical body and become a real acquired lightning true spirit. Grade 8 lightning divine pill? The rebirth of a primordial spirit? When the crowd saw this, they were slightly stunned. In the blink of an eye, the acquired true spirit transformed from the grade 8 lightning divine pill had already left. At this moment, the group of experts finally reacted. In an instant, the eyes of many experts who cultivated the law of thunder turned red. Grade 8 divine pill, where do you think you're going? Stop right there. The group of young experts let out shrill howls as they mustered all their strength and soared into the sky, madly chasing after the thunder mantis. The group of supremes shook their heads. Although they also coveted the grade 8 lightning divine pill, the supremes knew that this lightning hoe was not easy to catch. Although this lightning hoe's body was a divine pill, it was actually a living being, and a living being with innate magical powers. The lightning hoe's innate magical powers, the lesser heaven's thunder god escape technique, were not to be trifled with. The lesser heaven's thunder god escape technique could escape through the 3,000 great worlds, and it could be said that it was born with the ability to travel through space. Unless the Supremes attacked or had a special treasure that could restrain this divine pill, there was no way to catch up with it. The few Supremes were thoughtful, but Qin Feng, the expert who refined the divine pill, didn't chase after it, so they couldn't make a move either. After all, they were the sect masters of the various sects, and they had to be careful about what they wanted. However, they secretly transmitted messages to their disciples, ordering them to surround and intercept it. They must get their hands on the grade 8 divine pill. A belly full of thieves and prostitutes. Qin Feng secretly observed the actions of the sect masters and curled his lips in disdain. This Qin Feng is really a wastrel. He actually gave up on such a precious grade 8 divine pill just like that. The Star Venerable saw Qin Feng's expression and was secretly annoyed. He didn't know the daily necessities unless he was in charge. It was a pity that he had to run around for Xingqian school all these years, living a tight life, but this kid gave away millions of divine pills just like that. And that grade 8 divine pill, he actually let the original soul of the divine pill escape. The Star Venerable's face was expressionless, but he couldn't wait to rush up and kill Qin Feng right now. But he couldn't do that now. It wasn't easy for an grade 8 divine pill emperor to appear. Those old fogies of Xingqian school would probably worship him like an ancestor. If he knew that Qin Feng was wronged, his peaceful days as the Star Venerable would probably come to an end. And those fellows with ulterior motives, I'm afraid they already want to kill him. What the Star Venerable was most worried about was the few leaders of other sects, who were all smiling and smiling like tigers. Especially the sect master of Qiankuan sect, Xian Zhiyang. The Star Venerable was always on guard against the shameless gigolo sneak attacking Qin Feng. Clan leader Bai, how is it? Do you still have any doubts about the origin of my million divine pills? Qin Feng's gaze swept past the ashen-faced Lin Ling as well as the other participants. Being swept by his gaze, many of the candidates smiled bitterly. Bai Zhan had already reacted. He laughed loudly and stood up from his throne. Son-in-law, I really didn't expect you to be a grade 8 divine pill emperor. Good, well done. Ever since I saw you for the first time, I was sure that only martial nephew Qin Feng is my Bai clan's son-in-law. Grabbing Qin Feng's shoulder, Bai Zhan's smile was indescribably happy. He even called him son-in-law. The other sect masters' eyes twitched as they secretly scolded him for being shameless. But in their hearts they were also envious. To have an grade 8 divine pill emperor as a son-in-law was a wonderful thing that could only happen in a few lifetimes. Wait a minute, there are almost 1,000 chapters. The first 1,000 chapters is worth celebrating. Chapter 996. There was no suspense in the Bai family's public matchmaking. Millions of pill rivers were secondary. Qin Feng's identity as an 8th-grade medicine emperor was there. The Bai family would never let go of such a wealthy son-in-law. The supreme martial artists did not stay for long. After witnessing the engagement between Qin Feng and Bai Yan, they immediately found various reasons to leave. However, the storm in Tianshui City did not stop because of this. Instead, it surged in all directions at an extremely fast speed, causing the Ten-Spirit region, which was already turbulent, to become even more agitated. It was filled with the aura of an impending storm. Qin Feng stayed in the Bai family for a period of time. Qin Feng had long set his sights on the Bai family's territory. It was not that he had set his sights on Tianshui City, but to become the Northern Spirit region's Saint Emperor, he had to be recognized by many forces in the region. During this time, Qin Feng and Bai Zhan had a long talk. Bai Zhan was a sly old fox, and Qin Feng could not reveal his true intentions for the time being. As for destroying the Bai family violently, although Qin Feng was ferocious and evil, he couldn't do such a thing. Moreover, he had placed a heavy bet on his brother-in-law. He could not run away to be the villain. Forget it, since my father-in-law does not agree. When my 2 brothers-in-law grow up and take charge of the family, I will have my own ways. Qin Feng believed that this would not take too long. However, his brother-in-law and second brother-in-law were not on good terms with each other. When the time came, there would be a scene of them killing each other. He did not know if his father-in-law would be the winner. The forces in the northern spirit region were complicated. The main forces were the Bai family, the Wu family, and the Yen family. Dealing with the three families was akin to gaining the allegiance of most of the forces in the northern spirit region. Lastly, there was the Bailing sect. The Bailing sect had a shallow foundation, and its strength was ranked at the bottom of the 72 orthodox sections. Qin Feng was confident that after he passed the fifth heaven's blight, he would be able to destroy this sect. Buzz. At this moment, in the loft, Qin Feng, who was listening to Bai Yen playing the zither, frowned. What happened? Bai Yen stopped playing her zither and looked at the black-robed youth with watery eyes. She was wearing a white palace dress with a low-cut chest and a girdle around her waist. Another deity position has appeared. Qin Feng sighed softly. At this moment, countless experts on the continent were roused from their seclusion. In the perception of all the supremes and above, one of the tens of thousands of laws in the void was vibrating abnormally. It's a branch of the fire origin laws of nature. The first post-celestial divine seat of fire has appeared. Qin Feng sighed softly. Fire elemental post-celestial divine position? Bai Yen pondered for a moment. Her watery eyes swept over Qin Feng, who was in deep thought. Now that she was engaged to Qin Feng, she regarded herself as Qin Feng's woman. She wasn't a woman who didn't do any household chores. She knew very well what the birth of each deity position represented. It was a demon god, an existence that could dictate the rise and fall of countless countries, families, and sections. Once such an existence appeared, the impact on the major forces of the Linghai continent would be unimaginable. Suddenly, Qin Feng raised his head and spoke. Yen I'm leaving. Qin Feng sighed softly as he glanced at the beautiful girl in white who was slightly dejected and reluctant to leave. The birth of a deity position means that I have to speed up. At least before the birth of a culmination deity position, I have to reach the peak of the supremes and strive for the qualifications to compete for a deity position. Qin Feng said, as if he didn't see the hidden bitterness in Bai Yen's eyes. The next great era will be very exciting. Xingqian school can't be without a demon god, and the Bai family can't be without a demon god. Forces without a demon god will be eliminated in the end. After a moment of silence, Bai Yen said, I'll wait for you. Bai Yen felt a little dejected in her heart. When they met back then, Qin Feng was just an incomparably tender youth. Now, in the blink of an eye, he had become a divine dragon that soared in the sky. He was high and mighty. She could see him, but she couldn't touch him. She suddenly felt a little hesitant. Qin Feng glanced at Bai Yen and seemed to see the uneasiness in Bai Yen's heart. He walked closer and gently pulled the woman into his arms. Yen don't worry. Although your aptitude isn't the best, I left you the primordial by Emperor technique and the primordial water elemental world to assist you. As long as you cultivate diligently, you might be able to reach the deity position in the future. Bai Yen closed her eyes and leaned into the youth's arms. Feeling the unique warmth, it was as if the haze in her heart had suddenly disappeared. She was no longer hesitant. Even if Qin Feng's words were just to comfort her, Qin Feng was a little helpless. Although Bai Yen was extremely beautiful, her fertility was much worse than those monsters. It was probably impossible for her to attain the deity position. However, Qin Feng couldn't let Bai Yen die of old age. This was his first woman. Perhaps I can plan for a special deity position. Qin Feng's eyes were thoughtful. For someone like Bai Yen who had ordinary talent and luck, self-attaining the deity position was undoubtedly like looking at the moon in the water and looking at flowers in the fog. However, it wasn't impossible. There were several types of deity positions. Qin Feng knew of a type of deity position called the guardian deity position. What was a guardian? It was the guardian deity of the Spirit Sea continent. Thinking of the guardian deity, Qin Feng suddenly thought of a very famous expert. That person was the first guardian deity of the Spirit Sea continent. During the Golden Age, countless experts had appeared. The more famous ones were the kings of various paths. These kings were titled kings. In the end, most of them achieved great things. Even a small number of them didn't attain the deity position in the end, but they had left behind a great reputation. However, the most famous ones were undoubtedly the 10 ancestors and the 4 emperors. Many of the 10 ancestors and 4 emperors had even attained the deity position in one step. They had left behind an indelible mark in the Golden Age. The achievements of these people were not inferior to those terrifying ancient existences in the Primordial Age. Among them, the demon ancestor Duan Shaolu and the magic ancestor Shinxiu, whom Qin Feng had met, were 2 of the more famous ones among the 10 ancestors. Qin Feng had also met one of the 4 emperors. That was his second brother-in-law, the Metal Emperor Bai Qingyu. This Metal Emperor was known as the successor of the Primordial Bai Emperor. In Qin Feng's mind, the main character that appeared this time wasn't his second brother-in-law. It was another ruthless character among the 10 ancestors, the Underworld Ancestor. Who was this Underworld Ancestor? Qin Feng didn't know his true identity. He only knew that this Underworld Ancestor had single-handedly established the Netherworld Law and established billions of Netherworld ghost kingdoms. Qin Feng naturally didn't dare to have any ideas about the Underworld Ancestor. He was an unparalleled ferocious person. In the future, even the Blood River Law was almost completely devoured in the hands of the Underworld Ancestor. Although Qin Feng felt that he had some strength, he wouldn't go and wrestle with such a powerful person. That would be seeking trouble for himself. Qin Feng had his eyes on the leader of the 10 great kings under the Underworld Ancestor, King Yenluo. This King Yenluo was the Spirit Sea continent's first guardian deity. This person was also an unparalleled ferocious person. It was said that as long as he stood on the Spirit Sea continent, he could even beat up a chief god. What Qin Feng had his eyes on was the method to become a guardian deity. Although deities weren't as strong as demon gods, they were born to belong to the Spirit Sea continent and were protected by the Spirit Sea continent's laws. They were also immortal and indestructible. Although they had less freedom and their status wasn't as high as orthodox demon gods, they were still an excellent way out. Bai Yen'er was his wife, so Qin Feng naturally had to make plans for her. Coincidentally, Qin Feng knew the identity of King Yenluo. He was a member of a large family in the northern spirit region. He could also take over another important force in the northern spirit region. Chapter 997. According to the ancient book Investiture of the Gods, the first king under the ancestor of the Netherworld, King Yenluo, was born in the immemorial Yen family and had the 9 nether divine blood in his body. Yen Laosan, who later became the first king under the ancestor of the Netherworld. Qin Feng was determined to rule the northern spirit region and become the northern spirit emperor. Naturally, he had to deal with the other 2 immemorial families in the northern spirit region, the Wu family of the Withered Pine City and the Yen family of the Nether City. According to the Investiture of the Gods, Yen Laosan was not outstanding in the Yen family at the beginning. Although he was not the shame of the family like me, he was still a marginal figure. His uncle did not love him and his grandmother did not love him. There is no record of when he rose to power. In Qin Feng's mind, according to the Investiture of the Gods, most of the kings and emperors in the Golden Era were unknown before they rose to power. They only showed their power after their cultivation reached at least the heaven rank. King Yenluo only stood out when the Yen family of the Nether City was about to be exterminated by a first-rate sect in the outer region. In a battle, he killed most of the experts of the first-rate sect in the outer region by himself. The whole world was shocked. Because of this, the later generations were not clear about his growth path. Moreover, King Yenluo was extremely mysterious, and there were not many legends about him. It was only recorded that he was the first king under the ancestor of the Netherworld. Therefore, Qin Feng could not snatch the opportunity and take advantage of it. At this time, his cultivation must have reached the initial success stage. I just don't know how strong he is. After Qin Feng left Bai Yen Er's pavilion, his expression suddenly changed. He raised his head and looked around the Bai family with an unknown look in his eyes. The next day, he disappeared silently from the Bai family. Damn it, this kid seems to have discovered us and ran away. In an unknown spacetime, countless void turbulence surged. However, in front of these 4 or 5 figures, even the violent void turbulence seemed to be afraid and did not dare to move forward. Everyone, have you seen them clearly? How did this kid leave? A mysterious figure in a fiery red robe said with a gloomy face and a strange light in his eyes. A faint murderous aura emanated from his body. I don't know. There are no spatial fluctuations, so it shouldn't be the use of spatial laws. Right? Could it be that old bastard Star Venerable who did it? That old bastard is very strong. He must have sensed our killing intent. The other mysterious supreme martial artist gritted his teeth. Star Venerable, that old bastard, seems to be hiding his strength. I think this matter must be related to him. The mysterious figures exchanged glances with each other. That was the only explanation they could think of. They did not believe that Qin Feng had the ability to escape from their hands. It must be known that the entire Tianshui city was under the surveillance of several people. Even if Qin Feng hid in an ant hole, he would not be able to escape their eyes. Sighing slightly, the mysterious figures flashed and disappeared into the space turbulence. Evil intentions. After the mysterious figures left, a silver-robed figure silently flew out of the space turbulence. The silver-robed, white-haired man was the Star Venerable that the mysterious figures had mentioned. It seems that Qin Feng still has some secrets. He actually avoided the killing intent of these old bastards with his own strength without my help. The Star Venerable was secretly surprised and smiled slightly. With this ability, it's no wonder that he can appear and disappear unpredictably. He can escape my disciple's trap and pursuit time and time again. Well, since he has this ability, I don't need to worry about him. The Star Venerable's gaze swept across the space turbulence and fell on a somewhat gloomy purple-robed man in the depths of the space turbulence. The purple-robed man did not notice the Star Venerable's gaze. A faint murderous aura flashed in the Star Venerable's eyes, and he retracted his gaze after a moment. However, I can't ignore the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure. That disciple of mine is not easy to deal with. Although Ao is extremely talented, and his talent and wisdom are top-notch, he is ultimately a wolf with a wolf's heart. He is too aggressive. I can't not plot something, otherwise. After pondering for a moment, the Star Venerable glanced at the Bai family. Then, in a flash, he disappeared into the depths of the space turbulence. In the depths of the space turbulence, when the Star Venerable looked over, the purple-robed man seemed to have sensed something. Just now, he felt as if something had swept past him. He looked around. However, the space around him was empty. There was no movement at all. A trace of suspicion flashed in his eyes, and he pondered for a moment. He was confident that with his current strength, no one could secretly spy on him without him noticing. One had to know that at this moment, even a supreme being of the third step was like an ant to him. Soon, he focused his attention on Qin Feng. What a pity! Those supreme beings are all useless. They can't even kill a junior disciple. A cold smile flashed across his face. He closed his eyes, and a drop of bright red blood appeared on his palm. This was a drop of blood essence from a disciple of the Qin family. He had mastered an ancient bloodline tracking technique. No matter how far Qin Feng had run, he would be able to track him down by tracing his bloodline. Using the inner demon technique, Qin Feng silently left Tianshui City. It was not until he felt that the dark clouds above his head had dispersed that Qin Feng showed himself. This was a small town, and it was already under the Iron Ridge. It was not far from the huge city under the Iron Ridge, Nether City. Those supreme beings wanted to target Qin Feng, but Qin Feng had already prepared for it. Obviously, Qin Feng's identity as an 8th-grade alchemist allowed him to be in the limelight. However, it was also inevitable that some big shots who had interests related to Xingqian School would want to kill him. Qin Feng did not need to think to know that from today onwards, he would be the #1 target of many enemies of Xingqian School in the 10 spirit regions. An 8th-grade array king and an 8th-grade medicine emperor. This was undoubtedly great news for Xingqian School. Obviously, it was not a good thing for other sects who were already hostile to Xingqian School. Qin Feng estimated that at this moment, there might be dozens of people who were already on their way to kill him. A few days later, Qin Feng appeared outside a majestic city. This was an ancient city located under a huge mountain range. This place was quite prosperous. It was full of flowers and burning flames. It was not inferior to the Bai family's Tianshui City. However, there were many soldiers on the streets. Other than the merchants who came and went, there was a strict military ban. Qin Feng asked around and heard a piece of excellent news. Speaking of which, this news was related to him. It was said that an evil god called the Lord of the Netherworld had escaped to Nether City. Recently, he had been causing trouble for the Yen family in Nether City. The Yen family had already lost many people because of this. Qin Feng was no stranger to the Nether evil god. This evil god was summoned by him from the depths of the river of blood. Qin Feng was a little surprised. This evil god was not killed by the demon Venerable of Lion Camel City. He actually escaped, and he even came to Nether City to cause trouble for the Yen family. This was beyond Qin Feng's expectations. When Qin Feng first summoned the evil god from the 18 levels of the blood prison, he did not have good intentions. He only wanted to use these people as cannon fodder to fend off a group of crazy lions. Now, this evil god was not killed. Instead, he came to cause trouble for the Yen family. Qin Feng felt a little guilty. Qin Feng felt that there must be some secret that he did not know. Perhaps it was the secret technique to become a guardian god. Thinking about the secret technique, Qin Feng's eyes were burning with desire. There were different levels of people, and so were the demon gods. The demon gods were at the top, followed by the innate gods and then the deities. Although they were all immortal and had mastered the laws, the difference was huge. However, this did not mean that there was something missing to become a deity. In fact, the secret technique of becoming a deity hid a great secret. In the records of investiture of the gods, there were many who became demon gods in the Golden Age. However, there were very few who became innate gods. But no matter what, it's best if this evil god destroys the Yen family in Nether City. Then I will appear. Author. Late, I suddenly found a good book. The author is also a book lover. I finished it in one go and realized that the update was late. There's more later. Chapter 998. Dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. After arriving at the Yen family, Qin Feng felt that he had taken things for granted. Despite the storms outside, the Yen family was still as stable as Mount Tai. There was no sign of panic. Outside the door, there were some traces of battle. In Qin Feng's opinion, the Yen family didn't lose a single hair. Isn't there a rumor that the Yen family is in trouble? Why does it seem like nothing happened? Beside him, a young martial artist looked regretful. It was as though he was heartbroken that the Yen family hadn't been wiped out. Qin Feng cast a sidelong glance at him from a distance of about 30 meters. How dare this guy curse the Yin family at the entrance of the Yin family? Where did this idiot come from? How dare he spout nonsense at the entrance of Hades? A furious roar. Vaguely, Qin Feng saw two black lights coming from the depths of the ground. They were like black smoke. When they appeared, they transformed into a group of tall guards in black. The leader of the group, a burly man in black, shouted, "Old man, go, catch this gigolo for me." They were like countless grim reapers. There was an extremely cold fluctuation of vitality. In the next moment, countless black chains flew out from the bodies of the black-robed men. Like a spirit snake, it coiled itself around the white-robed young man. Body of the god of underworld? Qin Feng was slightly surprised. The body of the god of underworld was an extremely strange and mysterious martial Dao true body. It was rumored that countless netherworld envoys in the netherworld kingdom had the body of the god of underworld. To Qin Feng, the body of the god of underworld was extremely weak. Although it was strange and could be enhanced in some special environments, such as places where death aura gathered, it was far inferior to ordinary martial Dao true bodies under normal circumstances. It's still the same set. Death guards of the Emperor of Hell, soul restraining chains, soul slasher. This thing can restrain the divine consciousness of ordinary martial Dao cultivators and imprison them. It can't do anything to your grandpa Cho. The young man shook his head and sneered. A sharp sword ray appeared on his body. The young man held the long sword and swung it in the air. A large number of chains were broken. The sword ray circled around the black-clothed death gods and cut them into 17 or 18 pieces before they could even scream. Surprisingly, these black-clothed death god guards did not die even after being chopped into dozens of pieces. Instead, their severed limbs turned into black smoke and reassembled in the air. Even the broken chains grew out once again, whistling as they charged towards the white-clothed youth. The white-robed man seemed to be very familiar with the experts from the Yin family. He wasn't surprised and merely raised his eyebrows with a smile. "Today your grandfather will give you some good stuff." He took out a bead from his bosom. He casually threw it out. Like a ray of light, it exploded in the middle of a group of death god guards. Rumble! The entire street was surrounded by a dazzling brilliance. Light-type consumable? A trace of confusion flashed across Qin Feng's eyes. The body of the god of the underworld could be considered a darkness-type constitution. Its nemesis was light, or perhaps it was filled with the power of extreme yang. The dazzling brilliance burst out. A few low shrieks were heard. Qin Feng saw the bodies of dozens of death god guards festering, corroding and even turning into ashes in a short period of time under the intense light. The huge commotion startled half of the mansion of hell. Wave after wave of tyrannical auras rushed over in rage. This time, the white-clothed youth had stirred up trouble. Where did this madman come from? How dare he behave so atrociously in the netherworld city? With a furious roar, a black cloud seemed to cover the entire sky above the Yin family. A huge black hand that covered the sky slapped down on the white-clothed youth from the black cloud. "A mere rank 5 abysmal Saint King dares to attack me? You must be tired of living." Looking at the sky above, the white-clothed youth sneered. The milky white battle sword in his hand shone with a dazzling brilliance. His eyes were filled with hatred as he slashed out with an intense sword radiance. The giant hand that fell from the sky suddenly split into two, and the sharp sword light slashed into the black clouds. A black-robed Saint King, whose expression changed drastically, turned into ashes in the blink of an eye before his fearful eyes. "Oh no, Elder Yen Yun is dead." All the elders of the Yen family who rushed out looked at this scene in horror. Elder Yen Yun was an extremely powerful figure in the Yen family. Yet, he was killed the moment he made a move. Many experts of the Yen family were terrified. They looked angrily at the ferocious youth on the long street, but no one dared to charge forward to capture him. A rank 9 light-type pseudo-supreme martial artist. He also has an aura that is different from this era. He must be an expert from the ancient era. Qin Feng was happy to see the commotion. He did not forget to comment. However, I'm afraid this is not enough to annihilate the Yen family. The Yen family was one of the top 3 families in the Northern Spirit region. They had a strong foundation and definitely had a supreme martial artist. They might even have someone who was stronger than a supreme martial artist. Qin Feng felt that he should give this young man a hand. It was not easy for a youth to take revenge. Looking at the hatred between his eyebrows, it was obviously not a small grudge. Boom. At this moment there was another change in the Yen mansion. A strong and terrifying aura rushed out from the Yen mansion. A huge force instantly sealed the void within a few hundred miles. Ghosts wailed and gods howled. Everyone, including Qin Feng who was watching from the side, suddenly felt as though they could not move at all. Law of death, death imprisonment? Qin Feng's eyes lit up. This was the 3rd skill of the law of death. This was one of the 3 ultimate profoundness of the law of death. The supreme martial artist of the law of death? Looks like a big shot from the Yen family is here? The white-robed man sneered. The aura on his body started to break through. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the limit of rank 9. A strong light god power surged. He swung the long sword in his hand and a ray of light appeared. It dispersed the strange force around him. The sword light shot up into the sky and locked onto the Yen family's mansion. Boom! Qin Feng felt as though the entire earth was shaking. Vaguely, a roar of anger could be heard from the Yen mansion. A black light flashed and a strong divine light suddenly appeared on the long street. It was a shriveled old man. His face was sallow and his hair was grayish-white. An empty black robe covered the old man's body. His sunken eye sockets were filled with green flames. He looked at the white-robed man coldly and emotionlessly. Qin Feng saw that a sword aura had almost pierced through his chest. Countless black gas surged around the wound, and it could not be healed. This was the supreme martial artist who attacked just now. You are. Looking at the white-robed man, the furious supreme martial artist widened his eyes. It was as though he had seen something unbelievable. He screamed. Qiu Shaotian, you are not dead yet? Aren't you a supreme martial artist of the soul element? How did you? Qiu Shaotian? It's him? Hearing the supreme martial artist's words, Qin Feng's eyes flickered. He thought of a famous king recorded in the investiture of the gods era. There's more later. Chapter 999. Qiu Shaotian, the youngest son of the immemorial Soul aristocratic family. One of the Light Kings. The immemorial Soul aristocratic family. Soul was the true name of the law. This was a true top-notch aristocratic family. They were crowned with their true names. For example, the Lin family of the Water God State was also known as the Water Ancestor aristocratic family. They were also crowned with their true names. The immemorial secluded aristocratic families were also divided into different levels. The aristocratic families that were crowned with their true names were the most powerful existences. The Bai family and the Yen family were once the true aristocratic families. However, as they rose and fell, they had already fallen out of the category of the true aristocratic families. The immemorial Soul aristocratic family had already been annihilated. However, the Yen family inherited the true name of the immemorial Soul aristocratic family. Obviously, there were some stories that had to be told between these two families. Qin Feng didn't know that this wasn't the first time that Qiu Shaotian had caused trouble for the Yen family. Ever since the Yen family annexed the Qiu family, Qiu Shaotian had been causing trouble for the Yen family. Every time he appeared, he would seek revenge on the Yen family. However, he didn't succeed every time. He was beaten half to death. Of course, it wasn't that the Yen family didn't think of eliminating Qiu Shaotian completely. It was just that Cho Xiaotian was no match for them, but he had many ways to protect himself. Even when he was in a desperate situation and was surrounded by dozens of supreme martial artists, they still couldn't kill Cho Xiaotian. Moreover, every time he was severely injured, he would be able to appear in the next era after taking advantage of the opportunity. Because of this, the supreme martial artist of the Yan family was shocked and furious when he saw Qiu Xiaotian appear. Qiu Xiaotian, don't think that you can be unscrupulous just because you have the Sanxing Stone of the Qiu family. The Sanxing Stone is a divine item that can allow you to be revived every time. The supreme martial artist of the Yan family was also determined to kill this unkillable cockroach once and for all. Today, this will be your doomsday. He roared furiously. Boom. In the residence of hell, 2 more auras that exceeded the supreme martial artist realm appeared. The 3 supreme martial artists surrounded Qiu Xiaotian in a triangular formation. 3 supreme beings? Do you think 3 supreme beings are enough to kill me? During the primordial age, when the Yan family was at its peak, you were besieged by more than 10 Nine Heaven Supremes, but you still couldn't do anything to me, Qiu Xiaotian. What are 3 Nine Heaven Supremes to me? Qiu Xiaotian sneered. The power of the light divine rule in his body surged. It quickly surpassed the 2nd step of the supreme martial artist realm, and even the 3rd step of the supreme martial artist realm, reaching the peak of the 3rd step. Just one more step and he would be able to break through to lesser celestial. The 3 supreme martial artists from the Yan family turned pale as they retreated. Under such pressure, they were like ants. However, a rather young supreme martial artist among them sneered. Qiu Xiaotian, it's too early for you to be happy. The Yan family has long expected that you, Qiu Xiaotian, will reappear in this era. Do you think we don't have the means to deal with you? Qiu Xiaotian, you're dead meat this time. With a loud roar, the 3 supreme martial artists took a step back and bowed. Forefather, please show yourself. As the 3 supreme martial artists bowed, Qiu Xiaotian's expression changed. At this moment, Qin Feng, who was hiding in a corner, felt goosebumps all over his body. Between heaven and earth, the weather changed. An unimaginable divine power was suddenly born in the void. A terrifying aura pressed down on Qin Feng's heart. He felt as though his body was imprisoned and he couldn't move at all. Demonic god? Qin Feng's expression changed drastically. A ball of light appeared in the middle of the long street. Following his appearance, the entire street became gloomy. Suddenly, the lights dimmed as though it had turned into a ghost mansion. A black shadow was born in the light. The extremely rich power of order was like plasma. The rich aura of the god rule shot into the sky and shook heaven and earth. Qiu Xiaotian was shocked and his face turned pale. It's not a demonic god. It seems to be a deity? Qin Feng's expression changed. The demonic god of this era hadn't been born yet. However, even if it wasn't a demonic god, it was still a deity. There's a small ant spying on us? The golden eyes of the deity in the ball of light move. Instantly, Qin Feng was exposed to the gaze of the deity as though he was naked. The space order that flowed around him couldn't stop the golden eyes from spying on him. No matter who you are, since you dare to spy on the Yan family, don't think of leaving. The deity sneered. Following which, an ancient aura suddenly rose like a volcanic eruption. A huge black vortex appeared instantly. It was like an ancient black hole in the netherworld. Boundless majesty roared like a tidal wave. The surging aura was like a tidal wave. Wherever it passed, the space turned into complete darkness. Wave after wave, the entire sky was swallowed up. Not good. It's a god territory created by a deity with god-level energy. Damn it. Can a deity hurt bystanders as he pleases? Qin Feng was cursing in his heart. A huge force rushed towards him from all directions. He couldn't care less about hiding his strength. The primeval main star and the chaotic world burst out and turned into a force that wasn't inferior to a lesser celestial. It slashed across like a sword. Before the god territory closed, it flew away like a meteor. In the blink of an eye, it shattered the void and disappeared into the turbulence of the void. Huh! The deity of the Yen family's expression changed, and a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. The force that Qin Feng unleashed was extremely strong. It wasn't inferior to a casual strike of his. He was careless and allowed Qin Feng to escape. Damn it! Yen family deity, I'll remember you. How dare you attack me? Next time, I'll make sure your entire family dies. From afar, Qin Feng's fierce voice could be heard. The deity from the Yen family was so angry that his veins were twitching. At the same time, a force that wasn't inferior to a lesser celestial erupted from Qiu Shaotian. The bright light tore apart a corner of the god territory and disappeared into the void like a rabbit. I can't let you get away. The deity was furious. Below the deities, he was like an ant. In front of a junior, he was slapped in the face time and time again. This was too humiliating. Law of death, judgment of death. With an angry shout, an extremely huge force suddenly appeared. Qiu Shaotian, who was one step slower than Qin Feng, had already taken half a step into the depths of the void. At this moment, his complexion suddenly changed. He felt that he couldn't move at all. An aura of death shrouded him. It was as though the depths of his soul had turned gray. Even the law of death in his body was withering, shrinking, and dying under this mysterious force. Oh no! It's the first method of death, judgment of death. I can't dodge it. His mind was blank. At the same time, a gray mysterious force appeared on his body. When this force appeared, it displayed a terrifying force and melted the law of death that was shrouding him. Qiu Shaotian was overjoyed. He took the opportunity to swing the divine sword in his hand. With a slash, he shattered the void and disappeared into it. Damn it! It's the Sanqing stone again. The deity wasn't unfamiliar with the last force that appeared. His face turned pale immediately. The Sanqing stone was a soul attribute absolute treasure. It was a top-notch king absolute treasure. Chapter 1000. The Sanqing Stone, a king-level ultimate treasure? Although Qin Feng had escaped, the inner demon, who had stayed behind, saw everything clearly. His eyes lit up. A king-level ultimate treasure was an ultimate treasure that was above the Archean ultimate treasures. The Sanqing Stone was also known as the Sanqing Stone. Even in the Age of Doom, this treasure was still very famous. Qin Feng had once searched for the Sanqing Stone like a madman. The Sanqing Stone had an almost unbelievable ability. It could help an expert avoid the calamity of the epoch. No matter how badly injured one was, with the help of the Sanqing Stone, one could be revived as long as one's divine soul was not destroyed. Qin Feng remembered the promise he made with the third sword ancestor, Duguxia. The Sanqing Stone also had the ability to bring someone back from the dead. Moreover, the most precious thing was that it was not a one-time consumable. This ultimate treasure is a must-have to protect one's life after robbing and being hunted down by experts. It is a great opportunity to encounter it. Deep in the void, Qin Feng rubbed his chin and laughed as he looked in the direction Qiu Shaotian had escaped. Boom! Seeing that Qiu Shaotian had slipped away, the godly spirit of the Yen family was enraged. The entire Nether City seemed to be rumbling with thunder. Even though Qin Feng was far away from the boundless void, he could still feel the terrifying pressure. Deity! Qin Feng muttered to himself as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Deities were the weakest of the three divine ranks. Demon gods were the innate gods, followed by deities. Although they were the weakest of the three, they were still extraordinary. They had most of the requirements of a true god, such as divine soul, godhead, and even perfect control of the rules of order. The only thing they lacked was their bodies. They were much weaker than the demon god's immortal real body. Of course, their control of the rules of order was incomparable. Although the innate gods did not have the demon god's real body, their control of the rules of order was far superior to that of deities. Furthermore, it was not impossible for gods to fall. From Qin Feng's point of view, a god was the perfect body of a god of faith. If he had enough faith and found a complete god's kingdom, he could fuse with the god's kingdom. As long as the god's kingdom didn't fall, the god wouldn't die. This was a kind of inferior immortality. He would link his foundation with the fate of a nation. Qin Feng stared at this god spirit from afar. This god spirit's strength was equivalent to a lesser celestial. It would be very difficult to kill a god spirit. Even a mid-demi-immortal wouldn't necessarily be able to do so. If he wanted to kill such an existence, he would have to find the root of his existence, the world of gods. Moreover, he had to destroy it completely. Otherwise, this god would be immortal and indestructible. Qin Feng's true power of the extreme grade 7th stage possessed many mysterious powers. If he could advance to the supreme martial artist level, he might be able to find the world of gods. But for the time being, they had no choice but to flee. The god spirit of the Yen family let out a roar of anger. It seemed like he couldn't leave Nether City. Seeing that he couldn't catch up with Qiu Shaotian, he gave up. Qin Feng followed the direction that Qiu Shaotian ran. As a third step supreme, Qiu Shaotian's speed wasn't slow. Like a ray of white light, he traversed countless dimensions in the blink of an eye. Although he's not slow, he can't hide from me. Under the scorching sun of midsummer, even a cicada could only hide under the shade of a tree and mutter weakly. There were many big cities under the Iron Ridge mountain range. This place was famous for its prosperity. However, no matter how hard-working a merchant was, he wouldn't want to travel long distances in such a hot summer day. Only those martial artists who had cultivated to the point where they couldn't be affected by heat and cold were not afraid of the heat. At a tea stall in a small city, Qin Feng caught up with Qiu Shaotian, who had fled to this place. Without a sound, Qin Feng's figure appeared beside the tea stall. "It's you." Qiu Shaotian's expression changed. If it wasn't for the ancient god spirit of the Yen family, he wouldn't have realized that someone was spying on him. "Who are you? Why are you following me?" Qiu Shaotian's expression was unfriendly. Qin Feng didn't answer Qiu Shaotian directly. Instead, he came to the tea stall and asked for a pot of tea from the fat old woman. Then, he muttered to himself, "You were hit by the law of death of that god spirit. Although your life was saved by the Sanshing Stone, I guess you must have lost a lot of your strength and been severely injured." Boom! Silently, a white light flashed on the spot. A sword light cut through the void and disappeared into the void under the shocked gazes of many ordinary people at the tea stall. "You want to run? No way." Qin Feng sneered and put down the teapot. An ingot of gold fell at the feet of the lady boss, who was in a daze. Then, he disappeared into the depths of the void silently. Sweeping his gaze across the distant void, a streak of white light rapidly shuttling through the void appeared in his eyes. "You can't run away. I'm determined to get the Sanshing Stone." Qin Feng smiled gloomily. He disappeared on the spot. The law of space was almost the home field in the endless void. Its power was at its maximum. Space profound, space freezing. Activating the chaotic world and the power of the primeval main star, a divine light condensed hundreds of miles of void instantly. Qiu Shaotian, who was running away, was furious. Then, his body was frozen silently. Divine sword of light, blade of judgment. With a roar, the ancient sword in Qiu Shaotian's hand bloomed with a sharp light that could cut through the sky. In an instant, Qin Feng's space freezing shattered into thousands of pieces. White light burst out and flew out in an instant. "So, the Blade of Judgment, the artifact of the ancient god of brilliance, is in your hands?" Qin Feng was slightly surprised. Then, he changed his hand gesture. "Buzz." The second skill of the divine steel, demon suppression. A mysterious light that could seal time and space burst out from his hand gesture. Time and space seemed to be completely still. Qiu Shaotian, who was about to escape from Qin Feng's sight, froze in an instant. His eyes were filled with horror. This was not just space freezing, but time and space were completely still. If he was at his peak, this kind of stillness might not have been able to stop him. However, Qin Feng was right. He had just been hit by the god's first law of death, judgment of death. Although he had escaped with his life, because of the Sanqing stone, his vitality had been greatly damaged. More than half of the divine power in his body had been lost. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too stupid. You ran to seek revenge when you were not strong enough. Most importantly, you exposed the Sanqing stone. If you don't die, who will? Heaven and earth do not take and you will be punished. Qin Feng sneered. Then, he changed his hand gesture again. The third law of the divine steel, chaotic reversal. A magnificent divine light burst out from his hand gesture and hit the immobile Qiu Shaotian. A trace of fear flashed in Qiu Shaotian's eyes. In the next moment, his supreme divine body was torn apart by the divine light. A streak of light, wrapped in a panicked divine soul, escaped from the body that was split into 4 or 5 pieces. The Sanqing stone? Author's note: the 1000th chapter is a milestone. Here, the author would like to say something. Regardless of which channel you use to read this book, I'm very happy to have your support. This book is what it is today. Next, the author will continue to work hard and bring out even more brilliance. There will be more later. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.